Chapter 4590. It was a look of amazement and admiration. Gu Chengze looked her up and down and raised his eyebrows. Very beautiful. He had brought her size to buy clothes. Because he had not tried them on, he could not help but worry that the clothes he bought would not fit well, would be uncomfortable, or would not look good. How's the fit? It's very tight and light. It's quite comfortable. Bai Yan carefully probed. Is this expensive? It's not expensive. It was only a few thousand yuan each. However, Gu Chengze did not say anything. He knew that with Bai Yan's personality, she would probably feel bad about it. Therefore, after buying all the clothes, he specially ordered the manager to remove the tags and change the packaging so that she could not see the brand or the price. This way, she would at least feel at ease wearing it. Moreover, a few thousand yuan each was not expensive at all to Gu Chengze. Bai Yan thought that the not expensive he said was at most a few hundred yuan each. She could not help but exclaim, a few hundred yuan can buy clothes with such good fabric. It's really affordable. Gu Chengze almost couldn't hold back his laughter. Fortunately, he did not take her to the counter this time. Otherwise, she would definitely not be willing to wear the clothes he bought for her when she saw the price tag. Bai Yan saw that his eyes were full of praise and smiled shyly. Really? Yes, I don't lie. This dress looks really good on you. This dress is pretty good to begin with. Gu Chengze heard this and smiled. He walked over and helped her straighten her clothes. Bai Yan only felt that once he got close, the fragrance of orchids on his body could no longer be resisted. She lowered her head slightly, not daring to let him see the blush on her face. Ever since she was young, she had never stood so intimately with anyone before. Gu Chengze helped her straighten her clothes and said, beautiful clothes have to be worn by the right person to show their beauty and value. The praise in his words was self-evident. Bai Yan was really a very good-looking girl. Her facial features were very gentle and delicate. There were many types of beauty. Some of them were sharp, provocative, and aggressive. Some of them were as calm as water, dull and tasteless. At first sight, one would find them breathtaking, but after looking at them for a long time, one would get bored. But Bai Yan's facial features belonged to the category that one could never get tired of looking at 100 times. Perhaps the first time he saw her, she definitely couldn't be considered a heavenly beauty. However, the more he looked at her, especially when he stared at her, the more he found her breathtaking. However, due to the environment in which she grew up, Yi Yuqin had always belittled her more than praised her, which had caused her to develop an inferiority complex. She always felt that she couldn't compare to others in any way. Gu Chengze's words seemed to hold her in his heart. I also bought other designs. Try them on one by one, okay? Bai Hao turned around. He suddenly recalled something and halted. You! Why are you so nice to me? When Gu Chengze heard this, he was stunned for a long while before he broke into laughter. He had only bought her a few pieces of clothing. At most, he spoke a little more gently, but it made her feel flattered. What kind of life had she lived in the past 10 years? She was so scared to accept his kindness to her. Gu Chengze asked disapprovingly, shouldn't I be nice to my wife? Chapter 4591. Bai Yan returned to her room and tried on the clothes that Gu Chengze bought for her one by one. Other than the A-line dress, there were also slim-fit dresses and floral dresses. She seemed to be able to pull them off very well in different styles. Other than the fact that Bai Yan was a clothes hanger, Gu Chengze had good taste too. Her temperament was quiet and gentle, and he would choose clothes for her based on her style. These clothes were not very revealing and were not sexy. Although there were many styles, Bai Yan could always look sweet when she wore them. The more Gu Chengze looked at them, the more satisfied he was. Bai Yan counted carefully. He bought a total of 10 sets of clothes for her, and they were all full sets. Are you going to work tomorrow? I'm off tomorrow. Okay, there's no rush. Dry clean these clothes first. Dry clean? Are you going anywhere tomorrow? No. Then wear your pajamas first. Be particular for the day. The pajamas were placed in the washing machine and could be washed and dried in an hour. She could wear soft pajamas the next morning. Bai Yan was touched by his thoughtfulness and nodded. It's late. Go to sleep. Okay. Byran took her phone charger and phone and returned to her room. Just as she laid down on the bed, Byran opened WeChat and saw her best friend Mila sending her endless messages. You're married? You're married? You're married? Then there was a series of emojis. Byran did not know whether to laugh or cry. She gave her an affirmative reply, yes, I'm married. In the morning, when they went to register their marriage, Byran's mind was empty while waiting for the certificate. She sent a message to her best friend Milu. I'm married. After that, there was no time to reply to her. Too many things had happened today. Lying in bed, she felt exhausted. She opened WeChat and was amused by the series of funny emojis sent by Milu. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I haven't seen you for a few days. What happened? You don't even have a boyfriend. You abandoned me. Goodbye. Our friendship is over. Milu kept complaining like a machine gun, venting her dissatisfaction. The two of them had a very good relationship. Ever since they were in university, there had been a misunderstanding. No discord, no concord. Since then, their relationship had been very good. After moving to the same dormitory, they were inseparable like sisters. Although in today's society one had to guard against fire, theft, and girlfriends seemed to have gradually become a dangerous person. However, Milu and Baikun were 100% trustworthy in each other's eyes. Mil was a solid friend. Ever since she was young, Bayen had always been a very insecure person. Milu had always protected her like a boyfriend. She usually had a neat short haircut, giving people a very neutral style. Milu, tell me, who was it? When I wasn't paying attention, he kidnapped my best girlfriend. You didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He called her. As soon as the call connected, Milu started wailing. Why did you abandon me to marry a man? Didn't you agree to spend the rest of your life alone? But you secretly got married. Milu, you know about my aunt, right? Milu was silent for a while and regained his serious tone. Yes, I know. She forced you to go on a blind date again? Then, her tone immediately became nervous. Could it be that you married an old man who went on blind dates? Chapter 4592. Bayan pondered for a while and finally told her the truth. I married this man in a fit of pique. There was the sound of someone vomiting blood on the other end, followed by Mi Li's angry roar. Don't tell me you married someone in a fit of pique with your aunt. Do you know how hateful my aunt is? What are the conditions she set for the blind date? No matter who it is, whether bald or old, as long as he can give her a house for my cousin to marry a wife, she will agree to marry me to someone else. Mi Lu was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Isn't this human trafficking in disguise? Yes, Bayan felt wronged. So I found someone to marry. At least I won't have to face those weird blind dates anymore. Bayan felt like vomiting at the mention of blind dates. Mi Lu was dumbfounded. Is this the main point? The main point is the man you married reliable? Anyway, I think he's quite good. He knows how to respect girls, and he's also very gentlemanly. Most importantly, Bayan recalled Gu Cheng's handsome side profile when he was sitting in the front passenger seat. Her face was burning. Most importantly, he's also very handsome. Don't be fooled by appearances. Handsome men are generally fickle. Mi Lu paused and launched a series of attacks. What's his personality like? How's his family background? What about your parents? Did they agree to your marriage? Do you have a house? Do you have a car? Are the elders easy to get along with? Bai Hao was dumbfounded by the series of questions that came out like a cannon. She looked at the ceiling blankly and then replied in a daze, I didn't even ask. Buffed. There was the sound of someone vomiting blood again. Mi Li's hoarse voice came through the receiver. Bayan, can you not be so decadent? No. Mi Lu declared strongly. As your best friend, I want to meet him. Meet? Yes. At least I can rest assured if I approve it. But I'm already married. You can still get a divorce after you get married. It's just a marriage certificate. It won't bind you forever. Take advantage of the fact that both of you have just gotten married and don't have any children yet. Cut the Gordian knot. Milu asked again. You fell out with your aunt? Where are you staying now? If you don't have anywhere to go, then come to my place. I'll take care of you. I'm staying at his house? What? An hour later, Milu rushed to the door of the apartment aggressively and pressed the bell. Just as Bai Ran opened the door, she saw that Gu Chengze had already walked out of the study. When he reached the door and opened it, Milu walked in with his phone in hand. When he saw the man, he was stunned. Oh my God! She covered her face and her eyes widened. Gu Chengze's face was full of confusion. He had no idea what was going on. Frowning, he asked, Who are you looking for? Mi Li's aggressive stance instantly softened. He cleared his throat and lowered his head, not even daring to look at Gu Chengze directly. I'm looking for Bai Ran. Is she here? Milu. Chapter 45-93. Bai Ran. Milu entered the door awkwardly and winked at her as she walked over. You? Gu Chengze turned around and looked at Milu, who was covering his face and did not dare to look at him directly. He was slightly suspicious. Your friend? Yeah. Then have a seat. Although Gu Chengze was a little surprised that she had barged into their house so late at night, he still treated her as a guest. Bai Ran held her hand and smiled guiltily at Gu Chengze. She's looking for me for something urgent. Let's go into the room to talk. With that, the two of them pushed each other into the room. Gu Chengze stood there in a daze until the two of them entered the room. Then he shook his head helplessly. In the room, Milu shook Bai Ran's shoulder desperately. Your husband is so handsome. How can he be so handsome? Gu Chengze's appearance belonged to the standard idol drama style. He had fair skin, sword-like eyebrows, peach blossom eyes, and a clean temperament. On the other hand, he had the calm temperament of an old cadre. This type of man was simply an existence that killed women instantly. If your husband debuts, I'll definitely be his fan. Just a second ago, Milu was still questioning her on the phone. Now, she seemed to have become Gu Chengze's die-hard fan. Gosh, Bai Ran, how did you find such a perfect husband? Milu was in disbelief. Then, she suddenly calmed down and thought of something. She leaned over and asked, Did he say anything tonight? What did he say? It's the problem of sleeping together. You have a room to yourself? Yeah. He said that before getting my permission, he won't force me to do anything. Tisk. So pure and simple? Could it be that he has a hidden illness in that area? Bai Ran raised her eyebrows in confusion. Hidden illness? It's that kind. Milu whispered in her ear. It's just that he can't do that and can't find a woman willing to marry him. Puffed. Bai Ran quickly covered her mouth and said, Don't spout nonsense. This kind of thing is quite hurtful. Otherwise, there is another possibility. Milu asked suspiciously. Could it be that his marriage to you is a marriage in name? A marriage of formality was a marriage that was only formality and had no substance. On the surface, it was a normal family consisting of a man and a woman, but in reality, the husband and wife were physically and mentally independent. Nowadays, many of the marriages of convenience were formed by people who had sex with each other. Both husband and wife maintained an unknown sexual orientation, and such an orientation could not be known by the family. After all, the general public held prejudice and malice against homosexual relationships. Some elders didn't have extreme views on homosexuality, but once it fell on their children, they couldn't accept it. Therefore, in order to appease the elders, the children adopted a formal marriage. A man who liked men and a woman who liked women rarely had the chance to successfully form a family. Therefore, at this time, gay men would casually find a passable woman to marry through blind dates. This kind of woman was also known as a co-wife. Most of the same wives didn't know that their husbands didn't like women, so they ended up as victims of marriage. Milu had to explain everything to her. Chapter 45-94. That's impossible, right? Bai Ran could not believe it. Gu Chengze looked very normal to her. She felt that marrying her did not seem like he was using her. Milu asked carefully, Then, why did he marry you? After Mi Li's question, Bai Ran realized that marrying him was too rushed. She was completely clueless about everything about him. She could not even figure out his motive for marrying her. Love at first sight? Hearing that, Mi Lu could not help but mock her. Bai Ran, wake up. With his good qualities, girls who are prettier than you will definitely throw themselves at him. Bai Ran felt wronged. What does love at first sight have to do with being pretty? The prerequisite for love at first sight is that the first person you look at is definitely someone with good looks. Even if we don't talk about family background, in most cases, looks are also one of the criteria for matching social status. It doesn't have to be too good-looking, but if it's too ugly, how can he fall in love at first sight? She made a lot of sense. Bai Ran could not refute her. She lowered her head in defeat. Seeing that, Mi Lu sighed helplessly. Did you get married on a whim? Did you go and register your marriage with him? Bai Ran nodded silently. You're too muddle-headed. Marriage is a lifelong event. How can you be so casual? Mi Lu sat down beside her and chattered on. This society is actually very unfriendly to women. Moreover, you're a divorced female celebrity. You got married in such a hurry. If you two can't get along, would you divorce so hastily? We can slowly cultivate our feelings. Slowly cultivate? Mi Lu face-bombed. Some feelings can't be cultivated at all. Their personalities are incompatible from the beginning. No matter how you try to break in, it will be torture. She did not mean to pour cold water on Bai Ran. However, under such circumstances, Mi Lu had to consider the development of things from the worst perspective so that he would not be caught off guard. You didn't even discuss this with me. I'm so angry, Bai Ran said angrily. I was wondering why my aunt kept arranging blind dates for me. I didn't think that. She was using me. I can't take it anymore. I want to be free from this sea of bitterness. So, you randomly picked a man to marry? Mi Lu raised his eyebrows. I think he's pretty good. Although he's not rich and can't be compared to those rich merchants. He respects me and treats me like a gentleman. That's enough. Mi Lu was helpless. Bai Yu had always been disliked by her aunt's family, so she had an inferiority complex. However, just based on his looks alone, Gu Qingze was indeed irresistible to women. Actually, marrying him isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm just thinking about the worst. Perhaps you two have also found true love through a freak combination of circumstances. When Bai Yu heard this, his eyes went blank. Is there really true love in this world? Yes. Mi Lu vowed solemnly. True love is like wind and rain. What should come will still come. Ha 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 ha. Bai Yu was amused by her serious expression. Mi Lu, thank you for rushing over. She must be worried, right? Mi Lu also smiled and hugged her. Humph. Who asked my Bai Yu to be so beautiful? I have to be on guard at all times in case she gets kidnapped. The two of them tickled each other and fell on the bed laughing. Chapter 45-95. That night, Bai Ran slept soundly. In her sleep, she vaguely heard a little boy calling her name. Ran-er. Ran-er. In the dream, she vaguely saw a car. She was sitting in the back seat. Turning around, a thin figure gradually disappeared into the distance. The shouts of Ran-er were also left behind by the car. Bai Ran opened her eyes abruptly and sat up in bed. She realized that the sky was already bright. She had already forgotten what she had dreamed of, but the sound of Ran-er still lingered in her ears. She really couldn't remember her childhood memories clearly. She even almost forgot what her parents looked like. Time was the most powerful amnesia drug. It seemed to be able to dilute everything. She vaguely remembered that there was a boy who always liked to call her Ran-er. However, she couldn't even remember what his name was or his surname. Perhaps, after her parents passed away in kindergarten, she spent a long time healing herself. In the end, she realized that in order to walk out of that dark memory, she had to forget it completely. As if hypnotizing herself, Bai Ran forced herself to forget all the memories of that period. Later on, she wanted to recall what her parents looked like, but she couldn't remember. She deliberately tried to recall and tried her best to recall, but she didn't feel much. She didn't have the courage to look at the photos again. Although the old friend had passed away, the living were still alive. But the one who lived seemed to be the one in the most pain. Because of the shock of her parents' death, her grandmother was always in a daze. She had some mental problems and was a little irritable. She didn't seem to like her that much. Her grandmother actually had some patriarchal thoughts. Without her father, she had lost her mental support. After that, her grandfather and grandmother both passed away, and Byran had to wander around for a long time. Now that she suddenly had a home, she felt so happy that she didn't know what to do. It wasn't that her expectations were too low, but that she couldn't imagine what her own happiness would be like. Byran wrapped herself in a bathrobe and went out. She found a set of home clothes folded neatly on the sofa. The sound of frying eggs came from the kitchen. Byran changed into home clothes and approached the kitchen. She saw Gu Chengze holding a frying pan and spreading the eggs evenly. You know how to cook? Hearing this, Gu Chengze turned around. Seeing that she was already awake, he smiled and said, "Morning, morning." Byran walked into the kitchen and looked at the eggs in his pan. They were tender and white and looked very appetizing. Frying eggs was very simple, but to make them taste good was also a test of one's ability. This is the first time I've seen a man in an apron. Gu Chengze was wearing a white casual t-shirt, slender trousers, and an apron, but he did not look out of place at all. Instead, it gave off a very gentle feeling. Gu Chengze laughed when he heard this. "Is it that rare for a man to cook? Of course it's very strange. Did your parents teach you how to cook since you were young?" Gu Chengze frowned slightly. "My dad said that if a man can't cook, he won't be able to get a wife." Bai Kun was dumbfounded. "What happened?" "My aunt said that if a girl can't even cook, she won't be able to get married." "What about you?" Gu Chengze looked at her. "Do you know how to cook?" Chapter 45-96. Gu Chengze felt sorry for her. "That's a pity." "A pity?" Bai Yu was surprised. "What's a pity?" Gu Chengze first placed the fried egg on the plate with familiarity, then turned to look into her eyes. They looked deeply into each other's eyes. "Because you won't have the chance to cook in the future." Bai Yu's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't believe it. "Do you mean that I won't have to cook after I marry you?" "Yes." "Oh my God. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Wasn't this the same as being a little rice worm with a peace of mind?" Gu Chengze said, "I've been trained to cook since I was young. If you want to cook with me, I won't be able to use my skills." Gu Chengze recalled those tough times and held his forehead silently. When he was young, Gu Chengze was the type who developed later. His IQ developed. No matter what Gu Jinglian taught him, he always acted like he didn't know anything. He really didn't know anything. Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho were anxious. They really thought that Gu Chengze was the type of boy who didn't have the talent, grades, or skills. Therefore, Gu Jinglian was afraid that Gu Chengze wouldn't be able to find a wife in the future. So he developed him into a homebody. In the end, when the two of them were worried about Gu Chengze's IQ, Gu Chengze's grades skyrocketed and he got into a key city high school. When he received the report card, Chu Ho was dumbfounded and thought that Gu Chengze had learned to cheat. Aside from his studies, Gu Chengze was a late bloomer. In terms of personality, ever since he entered junior high school, Gu Chengze seemed to have become rebellious overnight. He became rebellious and didn't like to talk to Gu Jinglian. He started to be cold. Just as Gu Jinglian was thinking about how to deal with his son's rebellious behavior, Gu Chengze became mature and steady overnight. In the end, Gu Jinglian came to a conclusion. If the child was stupid, then let him play. If the child was rebellious, then let him be rebellious as long as he didn't violate his bottom line and principles. This set of educational principles was very useful when he educated Gu Xinghan. However, it wasn't that bad. At the very least, under Uncle Fu's strict conditions, Gu Chengze's culinary skills were definitely outstanding. Gu Chengze served breakfast on the table and made a cup of milk coffee. He had a sweet taste since he was young. When he drank coffee in the morning, he would add a lot of cream and sugar. Coffee was used to refresh him, but it was too bitter for him to get used to it. Bai Hao sat in front of the table, looking at the exquisite breakfast in front of him. He didn't want to destroy it with his knife and fork. A sandwich, a simple dish, a glass of milk, some porridge, and some side dishes. This was in line with the nutritional requirements for breakfast. Moreover, it looked appetizing. Gu Chengze asked, "What do you want to eat tonight?" "Oh, what can you do?" "I can do anything." "You're lying." Bai Chong did not believe him. There were so many delicacies in the world. How could he know everything? "Of course I'm lying to you. How can I be omnipotent?" Gu Chengze smiled deeply. "But even if I don't know how, I can learn how to eat it if you want." Bai Ran sucked on the spoon and suddenly thought of something. "I like tomato and egg drop soup." Gu Chengze. So simple? He could make this soup with his eyes closed. Your requirements are so low? Chapter 4597. She was satisfied with tomato and egg drop soup? What a glutton. Gu Chengze said to her, "Tonight, I'll make tomato and egg drop soup, then stir-fry some water spinach, braised chicken wings, and sweet and sour pork ribs. Okay?" "Yeah, okay." Bai Ran silently took a bite of the poached egg. She was so happy that it almost overflowed. Was this the feeling of home? It had been a long time since she felt this warm. She remembered that the happiest period of her life was probably when she was studying. At that time, it was a boarding school system and she was in school every week. She didn't like to go home because her aunt would scold her when she got home. When she was in university, she rarely asked her aunt for money. Other than tuition fees, she did her best to earn money for her living expenses. She even paid for part of her tuition fees. From that moment on, she understood that she was different from others. Other classmates had parents to rely on, but she didn't. She couldn't act spoiled without restraint. From then on, she forced herself to be independent as soon as possible. She was afraid of the day when she would be kicked out of the house. Because when she was young, whenever she made her aunt unhappy, she would always say, "This is my house. If you have any backbone, get out." These words were especially hurtful. The hurt was always imprinted in her heart and could not be erased. Therefore, she did not have a sense of security since she was young. Gu Chengze saw that she had a lot on her mind. Initially, there was a touch of gentleness between his brows, but for some reason, the more he thought about it, the more he seemed to have something on his mind. Bai Ran came back to her senses and smiled. "Nothing. I was distracted just now." She didn't dare to tell him what was on her mind. People always said that girls should be reserved and not show off too much. Gu Chengze said, "I have to go to work later. You rest well at home. Okay?" "Okay. I'll leave this address on the cupboard. If you need anything, you can call me." Gu Chengze suddenly thought of something and asked, "What did your aunt say?" "Huh?" Bai Ran was in a daze for a moment. "She already kicked me out." Gu Chengze heard this and nodded. "That place wasn't your home in the first place. Why did she kick you out?" Bai Ran was stunned. "From yesterday onwards, this is your home. Don't make things too awkward with your aunt. Of course, if she knows what's good for her, she won't make things too awkward." Bai Hao suddenly thought of something and asked carefully, "Should I visit your parents?" She finally gathered her courage. She hadn't dared to ask before because she was worried that he might not have parents or come from a divorced family, or some other unforeseen event. Wouldn't it be too presumptuous? However, he didn't bring it up. After all, Gu Chengze had already visited her aunt. It was etiquette to visit both parents. Etiquette was important in everything. Hearing this, Gu Chengze raised his eyebrows slightly. "I was worried that you weren't mentally prepared." "Mentally prepared? You really won't regret marrying me?" Gu Chengze continued. "Once you meet my parents, you may not have the chance to withdraw from this marriage anymore." There was no concept of divorce in the Gu family. They were all very traditional in their bones. Chapter 4598. Gu Chengze's words were very gentle, but the meaning he wanted to express was very rough. There was no concept of divorce in the Gu family. Especially after meeting the parents, there was no reason for him to withdraw. Was this a family rule? How domineering. Marriage was so open now. Free love, free marriage, and of course the freedom to divorce. It was not that she thought divorce was normal, but she was not sure how far her marriage with Gu Chengze would go. Who could guarantee that nothing would go wrong in their lifetime? Gu Chengzi saw that she was silent and smiled. Don't be nervous and don't misunderstand. I didn't bring you to meet my parents because they couldn't accept our divorce if they knew that we were married. I'm afraid that they would be sad if you don't want me anymore. Why was such an outstanding and dazzling man acting so innocent and pitiful in front of her? What do you mean I don't want you anymore? You're so outstanding. She still felt that she was not good enough for him. Gu Chengzi smiled and patted her head gently. I'm joking. He walked to Bai Ran and squatted down beside her. He held her face gently and said gently, Now, let's try our marriage first. I'll try my best to be a good husband. If we get along well and are mentally prepared, I'll bring you to meet my parents. Okay? Bai Ran smiled and nodded. Gu Chengzi walked to the door. Bai Ran walked to the entrance and quietly passed his suit jacket to him. Just as he picked up the tie, Bai Ran suddenly stared at the tie in his hand and said quietly, Do you want me to help you with your tie? Huh? Gu Chengzi opened his palm. Do you know how to? Yes. In the past, I used to work in a clothing store and learned a little. Bai Yu felt that it was a very interesting thing to fight for her husband's territory. She remembered that in her psychology class, the tutor also said that this kind of behavior could improve chemistry. It was Bai Ran's first time tying a tie for a man. She was so nervous that her hands were trembling. Gu Chengzi looked at her slightly trembling hands and wanted to laugh, but he held it in. He pretended to look at her casually, but he saw that she was nervous and serious about tying his tie for him. However, perhaps because she was too nervous, she made a mistake the first time. Don't be nervous. Gu Chengzi suddenly raised his hand and held her hand to tie his tie properly. Do you know how to tie it like this? Bai Hao chuckled in annoyance. I used to know it. Maybe. It's been too long since I last fought, so I forgot. Don't worry. You'll be good at tying my tie every morning. When he said this, Bai Yu's face turned even redder, as if she had been dyed with high-quality rouge. The more Gu Chengzi looked at her, the more he liked her. He couldn't help but lower his head and peck her cheek lightly. I'm going to work. Bai Hao lowered his head and said timidly, Be careful on the road. Yes. Gu Chengzi smiled at her and left. For some reason, this devilish smile made Bai Kun a little absent-minded. She stood at the door in a daze for a long time. It was only when she saw Gu Chengzi enter the elevator that she came back to her senses and closed the door. With her back against the door, she was still in a daze. This kind of life had only existed in her imagination. She had never imagined that it would become reality. He had a home. Chapter 4599. For the entire day, Bai Ran felt like she was floating in the air. As she walked, she felt like she could fly. She then realized that she was already married and had a husband named Gu Chengzi. She had been promoted to Mrs. Gu, and her mood was even better. Since she had nothing to do at home, Bai Ran familiarized herself with the appliances in the house. Then she began to clean the house. The house was not big, but she had to clean it every day to keep it clean. Especially when the windows were open, dust would accumulate in the corners if they were not cleaned for a day. She spent the whole morning cleaning the house. In the afternoon, the nanny came with the groceries. When she saw that the house was clean, she was so shocked that she thought she had entered the wrong house. Could not be. She did not enter the wrong house. But why was the house so clean? Although she cleaned it every day, there was a big difference between cleaning and not cleaning. She could tell at a glance that the house had been carefully cleaned. Bai Ran heard the door open and came out of the kitchen. When she saw the nanny, she was shocked. You are... When the nanny saw her, her face turned pale. Oh my God. Since when was there another person in the house? You are... When Bai Ran saw a stranger, she felt uneasy. She smiled and introduced herself. I'm Bai Ran, Gu Chengzi's wife. Wife? Young Master Gu was married? Oh my God. This was big news. The nanny called Gu Chengzi in surprise. Gu Chengzi had just left a company meeting when he received the nanny's call. Only then did he realize that he had forgotten to greet her. When he answered the call, the nanny's surprised voice came from the other end. Young Master Gu, You're married. Yeah? Gu Chengza frowned, feeling a headache coming on. I forgot to tell you. Are you home now? Yeah. When I opened the door, I saw that Mrs. Gu had cleaned the house. I thought I entered the wrong house. Does Master know about this? Don't tell my father for now. Why? In short, you just have to do as I tell you to. Also, you don't have to cook anymore. When the nanny heard this, she was even more surprised. Why? Because I'll cook from now on. When the nanny heard that, she was dumbfounded. She knew that Gu Chengza could cook. But because of his busy schedule, well, it was mostly because he was too lazy. Usually, other than cleaning, she would prepare 3 dishes and a soup before Gu Chengza returned. If Gu Chengza had social engagements, he would inform her in advance. However, Gu Chengza was an extremely disciplined man. If there was no need to socialize, he would rarely show himself. Important social gatherings usually ended early. Most of the social gatherings were for business, so when he came back, he would still feel hungry. Therefore, she would still prepare a meal and heat it up for him to eat when he got home. However, she was surprised when he said that he would cook for himself. Gu Chengza gave a few more instructions before hanging up. Bai Hao stood aside with his hands clasped behind his back. He asked carefully, "How should I address you?" "Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm the nanny of this house. My surname is Su. You can call me Auntie Su like Chengza." Chapter 4600. Auntie Su. Hey, good girl. Auntie Su's face was glowing as she nodded happily. Bai Ran immediately returned to her room. Just as Auntie Su was feeling puzzled, Bai Ran ran out with a notebook and approached her. "Auntie Su, can I ask you a few questions?" Go ahead." What kind of fruit does Chengza like to eat the most?" Auntie Su was Gu Chengza's personal nanny and was responsible for taking care of his daily needs. She should know a lot about his preferences, right? Auntie Su was stunned. After thinking for a long time, she said quietly, "Chengza doesn't seem to be a picky eater." "Not a picky eater?" "Yes. Whether it's fruit, vegetables, or meat, he basically doesn't refuse anything." "Doesn't refuse anything? Then there should be something he especially likes." This question was difficult for Auntie Su to answer. This favorite, how should I put it? She couldn't tell. Every time she brought back some fruit, Gu Chengza would wash it clean and eat it. No matter what fruit he ate, he wouldn't show any signs of liking it, and he wouldn't look like it tasted bad either. He would just eat it calmly. No matter what dish she made, other than the difference in saltiness, vegetables, and even something as disgusting as bitter gourd, he would eat it without a frown. "It's true that he especially likes cleanliness," Auntie Su said. "So, I basically don't have to worry about what he eats every day. The only thing I have to do is to clean the house. He's especially picky when it comes to hygiene." Bai Ran looked around and asked tentatively, "So, did my cleaning today pass?" Auntie Su casually wiped the table and saw that there was still dust. However, Bai Ran was so enthusiastic about cleaning that she was embarrassed to say it. She only said, "In the future, leave the cleaning to me. Basically, when I came here, all of you had gone to work. When I came back, the house was clean and bright. But you have things to do at home too. You can't come every day." Auntie Su heard and smiled. "Don't worry. If I'm not free, someone else will take over my job." Bai Ran was relieved when she heard that. That night, Gu Chengza came home very early. Coincidentally, the new clothes that Gu Chengza had bought for her had also been dry cleaned and sent over. When Gu Chengza returned home, Bai Ran was sitting on the sofa eating grapes. Seeing that he had returned, she immediately stood up from the sofa. However, she did not know what to do and just stood there stupidly. Gu Chengza didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Why are you standing up?" Bai Ran was so nervous that he blurted out, "Welcome you?" Gu Chengza was amused by her. He stood at the entrance without moving. Suddenly, he opened his arms and asked tentatively, "Then, do you want to give your husband a warm hug when he comes home from work?" These words finally woke her up. Bai Hao put down the plate of fruits and walked toward him. When she was in front of him, she lowered her head and hugged him. She blushed. Obviously, she was shy. He liked her shyness. He especially liked her blushing cheeks when she was shy. He really could not get tired of looking at her. Gu Chengze hugged her gently but couldn't bear to let go no matter what. The two of them were really like newlyweds. They stood at the entrance for a long time until Bai Yan urged him and said, "I feel like my arm is going to be stiff." Chapter 46:01. Gu Chengze walked to the kitchen. In the afternoon, he had asked Auntie Sue to buy tomatoes and eggs. These were the main ingredients because Bai Ran specifically mentioned that she liked them. He calmly put on an apron and quietly washed the vegetables one by one. Bai Ran had seen many people cook, and the one who left the deepest impression on her was her aunt, Yuqin. The small kitchen was always filled with oil and smoke. Yuqin was a person with a lot of negative energy. Her uncle was not career-minded, and the family was living a tight life, very cramped. Every time she cooked, she could hear her nagging as she cut the vegetables in the kitchen. She was either complaining that her uncle's salary was not enough to cover the expenses, or complaining about how much money her neighbor had lost playing mahjong. That endless nagging, coupled with the sound of cutting vegetables, always made people feel inexplicably irritated. However, watching Gu Chengze cook was a kind of enjoyment. Every movement of his was so graceful and free, giving off a feeling of carelessness. Although his movements were neither fast nor slow, they were methodical. Even when he was cutting vegetables, his back was still very straight. One could not help but wonder if he was from the military. Otherwise, how could he have such good manners? Gu Chengze could still care about her as he cut the vegetables. "Why are you standing at the door? Not watching TV?" "Watching and learning." Bai Ran smiled and refused to leave. This was because watching him cook seemed to be a kind of visual enjoyment. After the vegetables were cut, they were smoothly placed into the pot. Gu Chengze held the handle of the knife and started to stir-fry. From the angle of the door, looking at him from the side, he was elegant, confident, handsome, and dashing. Bai Ran felt that being able to marry such a man, although a little muddle-headed, was like a pie falling from the sky. All of a sudden, she felt a little dejected. She had a feeling that this man was really outstanding. Compared to herself, he suddenly paled in comparison. Nowadays, relationships were about matching in social status. This was what she concluded from her blind dates. The conditions were like an equivalent exchange. Although Gu Chengze married her and did not care so much, she still felt that there was a big gap between the two of them in terms of ability. This kind of man had an excellent job, an excellent character, and most importantly, housework was a piece of cake. Compared to herself, Bai Ran lowered her head in shame. No, she also had to learn how to cook. Bai Ran walked to his side and said with a smile, "Mr. Gu, can you teach me how to cook?" Gu Chengze suddenly turned his head and looked at her meaningfully. Bai Yan felt guilty under his stare. She pinched the corner of her clothes and said nervously, Although I'm a little stupid, I'll definitely learn it after a few more times." Gu Chengze suddenly said, "Isn't it time to change the way you address me?" Since we're married, why are you still calling me Mr. Gu?" Then, Bai Ran asked tentatively, "Chengze." Gu Chengze closed the lid and looked at the sky helplessly. He turned around and leaned against the table with his arms crossed. "Mrs. Gu, you should call me hubby, not Chengze." This was how the elders of the Gu family addressed him. It sounded very serious. Ugh! Bai Yu blushed. When they were in university, many campus couples would call each other husband and wife when they started dating. She felt that it was ridiculous. She felt that since they were not married yet, they should not address each other so casually. But now that they were married... Chapter 46:02. Old? Gu Chengze looked at her patiently, quietly waiting for her to call him. However, with Bai Ran's shy personality, she could not complete the word old after a long time. Gu Chengze suddenly walked in front of her and forced her into a corner. When Bai Ran realized what was happening, she had nowhere to go. Is this word so difficult to pronounce? Gu Chengze looked at her with a helpless expression. His handsome eyes even had a hint of indulgence. Come, repeat after me, hubby? Old. Bai Hao tried his best to say another word, but he couldn't say another word. When Gu Chengze saw this, his lips curled into a smile. Taking advantage of her annoyance, he suddenly bent down and pecked her on the lips. A brief kiss had almost taken away all of her dead ends. Byran widened her eyes and looked at him in a daze. She did not expect this man to be so evil and take away her first kiss. That was her first kiss. The first kiss she imagined was much more romantic than this. In the end, he snatched away her first kiss in the kitchen. This is punishment, Gu Qingze emphasized. He stretched his arms and controlled her in this small space. He continued to threaten and tempt her. You can't even pronounce such a simple word properly. I'll continue to punish you. He was not afraid that she would be angry. This woman had a soft and cute personality. She was really easy to bully. Men naturally had no resistance against this type of woman, especially this woman who was Byran. The more Gu Chengze looked at her pink cheeks, the more he liked them. However, he had to control himself and patiently wait for her to call him hubby. Byran's mind was in a mess. Other than when she was a little smarter when she was studying, she had never even held hands with a boy, let alone kissing or hugging. This man seemed to have taken care of many of her firsts. Why, you still don't know how? Gu Chengze pondered for a moment. Or are you looking forward to my punishment? No. Byran's face turned even redder, as if blood could drip out. I'm not used to it yet. Everything else can be discussed. This is the principle. There's no room for discussion. In other respects, he would not force her. However, since they were already married, if this stupid woman continued to call him Mr. Gu or Chengze, he would not know whether to laugh or cry. Good girl, call me hubby. He continued to guide her patiently. That pair of soul-stirring eyes were fixed on her body just like that. Byran's tongue seemed to be tied up. He stuttered, "I" for a long time, but he still couldn't force out the two words that Gu Chengze wanted to hear. Gu Chengze lowered his head again and kissed her unexpectedly. Byran was so angry that she laughed and could not help but punch him. Gu Chengze raised his hand and effortlessly wrapped it around her wrist. Good wife. He hugged her as if he was hugging a large teddy bear. He walked casually to the gas stove and turned off the fire the moment the pot lid jumped. His control of the fire was so precise. It was the same for her. Chapter 4603. Gu Chengze said playfully, "Mrs. Gu, why is your face so hot?" "Hubby." While he was still talking, Byran quickly called out the two words. Then, she broke free from him and ran out of the kitchen. Gu Chengze froze on the spot until he realized that this little girl had called him hubby when he wasn't paying attention. He couldn't help but laugh. Why was she so easily embarrassed? She was just like when she was young. Gu Chengze touched the corner of his mouth gently. He still wanted more from kissing her just now. He gently pinched the lid and opened it. The aroma wafted out. Gu Chengze smiled satisfactorily and served the sweet and sour pork ribs. Byran didn't know how she finished her dinner. The tomato egg soup she was looking forward to seemed tasteless. Her mind was filled with the image of Gu Chengze kissing her. That was her first kiss. However, in her mind, her other self seemed to be saying, "Isn't keeping your first kiss for your hubby?" However, the total number of days she had known Gu Chengze was less than a week. It was inevitable that she was caught off guard by how fast things were progressing. Gu Chengze saw that she was in a daze and was a little nervous. Is it not good? No. Byran immediately came back to her senses. It's very good. Gu Chengze heaved a sigh of relief. He was actually very confident in his cooking, but he was especially concerned about her opinion. If she said it was not good, then it would be meaningless no matter how good other people said it was. Gu Chengze asked, "What time are you going to work tomorrow?" "Oh." After he reminded her, Byran remembered that the design draft she had to hand in tomorrow was not ready yet. "What's wrong? I didn't do my homework." "Homework?" Gu Chengze almost laughed. "You still have to do homework when you're working?" "Yeah, the design draft is homework. I forgot. Too many things had happened recently, so much so that she almost forgot about work." "Do you have to do it?" "Tomorrow." "Yeah, I have to do it. My supervisor is very strict, especially, I'm new. If I don't work hard, I'll be criticized. Byran paused and said, "It's okay. It's very simple. I can design it tonight." Gu Chengze returned to the previous topic. "What time are you going to work tomorrow?" "Yeah, we all go to work at 9:30. I'll send you to the company." "No need. It's convenient for me to take the subway." Gu Chengze said, "I'm worried." Just as well. I'll send you to your company and get your company's address. Moreover, as a husband, it's his duty to send his wife to work." Unable to dissuade him, Byran could only bite the bullet and say, "Thank you. If you drive me, will you be late for work?" "I won't. Then I'll wake up earlier tomorrow." Gu Chengze's heart ached a little. "Didn't you have to rush out the design drafts today? Shouldn't you sleep early?" "We'll make it in time, don't worry." After dinner, Byran offered to wash the dishes, but Gu Chengze couldn't bear to do that. He chased her back to her room and told her to finish the design draft as soon as possible. Bai Kong returned to the room. The theme this time is the wedding of dreams. The company was collaborating with a bridal gown company to design a new bridal gown. Chapter 4604. The wedding of her dreams. For some reason, Bai Yayan suddenly imagined the scene of her and Gu Chengze's wedding. She blushed and lowered her head. She suddenly had an inspiration. First, she made a draft on paper, then scanned it into the computer. She used the tablet to add the details. A digital tablet was probably the most valuable possession a person had in their 20 years of life. Back when she was learning to draw and design, a digital tablet was a luxury to her. Yi Yuqin did not have much spare money. She raised a son and would never buy anything for her. She lived frugally and worked part-time. Finally, she became the last student in the design department to own a tablet. Even though the digital tablet she bought at that time was a little outdated now, she still loved it so much that she couldn't put it down and had been carefully protecting it. Her drawing skills were especially solid. Many people needed to make a very detailed draft before they could use the tablet. If she had the leisure to do so, she could have just used a digital tablet to do it. In less than half an hour, the outline of the wedding dress finally took shape. Bai Yayan stretched and glanced at the door. Gu Chengze silently leaned against the door. She did not know how long he had been standing there. "You?" Her lazy waist froze in midair. Gu Chengze laughed. "Are you done?" "Yes, almost done. There's still one more detail." Gu Chengze walked over, but Bai Yayan hugged the laptop screen in a panic and did not want to show it to him. "No peeking." Gu Chengze raised his eyebrows. "What is it? So mysterious?" "The design draft." "Oh, is this a trade secret? So it could not be revealed to outsiders?" Gu Chengze understood it this way. Actually, that was not it. It was just that Bai Yayan was a little shy to show him the wedding dress of her dreams. She felt inexplicably guilty. It was like a young girl in love being peeked at. Gu Chengze patted her head. Okay, I won't peek." He turned around and walked out of the door. "Are you relieved now?" Bai Yayan let go of the laptop. "No peeking." "Okay." Gu Chengze turned around and asked, "Finish work early, shower and sleep. Okay? Then, what about you?" Gu Chengze said matter-of-factly, "I'll wait for you in the living room." "Waiting for me?" Byran hurriedly said, "Go to bed early. You still have work tomorrow." "Since you're not sleeping, I can't sleep either." His warmth warmed Bai Hao's heart. She nodded and promised, "Okay, wait for me for a while. I'll be quick." Gu Chengze closed the door. Bai Zhe hurriedly picked up the tablet and crazily attacked. When she worked, she was a workaholic. It wasn't that she loved her work, but that she loved designing. When she was young, she had suffered a lot, so she didn't like to talk. Her biggest interest was to hold a drawing board and copy the beautiful girls in comic books. At first, there was no condition to buy drawing paper. She drew with a pencil in the unused part of the abandoned exercise book. At that time, she was still in university. However, her homeroom teacher liked her very much. She accidentally saw her drawing in her spare time. She even drew very well. Even though she didn't have a decent drawing board, she knew about her family's situation. Thus, she bought her drawing paper and a pen as a birthday gift. Chapter 4605. Perhaps because someone was waiting for her, Bai Yan was even more efficient. She finished all the details in no time. This design draft had been brewing in her mind for a long time. Now she was just reverting the thoughts in her head to the design draft. It was a piece of cake for her. Therefore, Bai Yan finished it very quickly. When she closed the notebook, the clock was already past 10 o'clock. It was already so late. Bai Yan walked out of the room in annoyance. However, she saw Gu Chengze sitting on the sofa, still waiting for her silently. She felt especially embarrassed. Bai Yan walked over guiltily. Gu Chengze heard her footsteps and looked up. When he saw her, he smiled. "Are you done?" "Yeah." "Then, do you want to shower first, or should I, or—" Gu Chengze said meaningfully, "Let's shower together." Shower together. These three words made Bai Yan's face turn red like a crab in a steamer. You shower first." "Yeah." Gu Chengze was a little disappointed. "There's such a big bathtub at home. Can't we shower together?" "You shower first." Bai Yan couldn't think of anything else to say. Gu Chengze stopped teasing her and patted her head. "Then I'll go shower first." Bai Yan walked stiffly to the sofa and sat down. She picked up the remote control and wanted to turn on the television. However, she didn't want to watch the television at all. Instead, her mind was filled with Gu Chengze's ambiguous words. So shy. She covered her face in annoyance when she recalled how he had asked her to call him hubby, word by word in the kitchen, and kissed her as punishment. Half an hour later, Gu Chengze walked out of the bathroom and saw Bai Yan still holding the remote control. Her thumb was aimlessly pressing buttons. However, the remote control was upside down and the television wasn't turned on. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He crossed his arms and said, "Your turn." Bai Yan lowered her head and stood up. She walked in the direction of the bathroom. Gu Chengze's body moved slightly. She only paid attention to the path under her feet and didn't look up at all. She bumped into his chest. Ugh! She pretended to be in pain and touched her forehead. When she looked up, she saw Gu Chengze looking at her with a smile. "Something on your mind?" No. Bai Yan didn't dare to look him in the eye, especially when Gu Chengze was wearing a bathrobe that revealed half of his well-defined chest. She didn't dare to look at him directly. She covered her eyes and went into the bathroom. Just as she closed the door, Gu Chengze turned sideways and asked, "Did you bring a towel and a set of clothes?" Patter. The door opened again, and Bai Yun came out with her eyes closed. She took a change of clothes and a towel from the drying rack and went back into the bathroom. "She's so stupid and shy, but she's so cute." Gu Chengze shook his head. He walked to the entrance and brought the brand new bag he had bought for her into the room. When he passed by the laptop, he caught a glimpse of the design drawing on the screen. Although it was wrong to peek, and she really didn't want him to see, it shouldn't be a problem to just take a look, right? Thinking of this, Gu Chengze slowly walked in front of the computer. With just one look, he could not help but be amazed. Was this the wedding dress she designed? She saw the theme at the bottom right corner, Dream Wedding. It seemed that her design theme this time was related to the wedding. Chapter 4606. Marriage was a sacred thing to begin with, and the wedding dress symbolized holiness and beauty. Gu Chengze did not look at it carefully. She seemed to be keeping it a secret, so he only took a cursory glance and did not look at it further. He walked out of the room, and not long after, Bai Yan was done. She did not go out for the whole day, so she did not take long to wash. When Bai Yan finished drying her hair and walked out of the bathroom, Gu Chengze was standing on the balcony, enjoying the night view and drinking something. Coffee? He was about to fall asleep, but he was still drinking coffee? Bai Yan thought as she walked over and asked, "Are you drinking coffee?" "Milk," Gu Chengze said. "A cup of coffee in the morning helps with work, and a cup of milk in the evening helps with sleep." His habit was to have a cup of coffee in the morning and a cup of milk in the evening. It was essential. When Bai Yan heard this, she could not help but burst out laughing. "What's wrong? Then do you add wolfberry to your cola?" Gu Chengze heard this and did not react for a moment. "Why wolfberry?" "To nourish my health." Gu Chengze finally understood what she was trying to say. Bai Yan said quietly, "You're too nourishing." You're so young, but you're living such a nourishing life. The people I know who are as old as you are, this is the beginning of the nightlife. Right now, I'm afraid they're drinking beer on a bar street. Gu Chengze could not help but protest. I'm the same age as you. The same age? Huh? Didn't you see the date on the marriage certificate? Byran looked confused. I was so focused on the photo that I forgot to look at the date. You don't even care about your husband's birthday. Byran was still in disbelief. Are you the same age as me? Gu Chengze could not help but feel sad at her suspicion. Do I look old? Not really. Byran leaned against the window and said quietly, don't they say that men mature later than women? You look too mature. I'm not talking about your looks. I'm talking about your temperament and the way you conduct yourself. You always give people the feeling that you're old. Acting like an old man? Gu Chengze's gaze could not help but drift away. He was brought up by Gu Jinglian. Gu Jinglian always spoke like an old man, and as he followed him, the way he spoke gradually became more mature. Maybe it's because of Dad's influence. Is your father very mature? No. Oh. Gu Chengze replied in all seriousness. He's already very old. Bai Zhe was speechless. Far away in the Gu family's residence, Gu Jinglian was practicing calligraphy when he suddenly sneezed violently. The last stroke was suddenly crooked, ruining the entire painting. Why did he sneeze for no reason? Was someone talking bad about him behind his back? You should be the same age as me this year. How old is your father? Around 40. What about 40-something? I don't remember the details. Gu Chengze often forgot his own birthday. Byran suddenly became curious. What kind of person is your father? At the mention of Gu Jinglian, Gu Chengze suddenly looked disgusted. He's a very fierce person. Fierce. The image of a middle-aged version of Gu Chengze bearing his fangs and brandishing his claws instantly appeared in Byran's mind. Chapter 4607. Then, Byran was even more curious now. Does your father look like you? Is he as good-looking as you? Gu Chengze thought for a while and suddenly looked a little uneasy. Byran saw this and was a little surprised. What's wrong? I feel like I'm the least attractive one in my family. Pfft. Byran almost spat out a mouthful of blood. She was really agitated. Oh my God. In her eyes, Gu Chengze was already one of the most handsome men in the world. At least, she had never seen a man more handsome than Gu Chengze since she was young, including on television. Yet, Gu Chengze said that his looks were the worst in the Gu family? You mean you're the ugliest in your family? No. Gu Chengze crossed his arms. My brother is not as handsome as me. He's below me. The brother he was talking about was Gu Linshi. However, this point was debatable. At home, Chu Ho thought that Gu Linshi was more handsome than Gu Chengze, but Gu Chengze thought that he was more handsome than Gu Linshi. Byran was very curious about his family. It's late. Go to bed early. Gu Chengze finished his milk and urged her to go back to her room to rest. The next day, Byran had the habit of waking up early. After brushing her teeth, she realized that there was an elliptical machine on the balcony. The elliptical machine was used for fitness. It was a type of aerobic exercise. Among all the fitness machines, the elliptical machine was the one that caused the least damage to the knees. She did some preparatory exercises and exercised on the elliptical machine for a while. Early in the morning, exercise was the beginning of a day full of energy. Byran had the habit of running in the morning. However, with the elliptical machine, she could finish her morning exercise on the balcony. Gu Chengze woke up later than her. After washing up, he sent her to the office. Byran opened the door and was about to rush in when Gu Chengze suddenly called out to her. Wait! Byran turned around in confusion. She did not know what he wanted to say. What's the matter? I'm going to be late. Come here. He hooked his finger at her. Byran walked over curiously. Gu Chengze suddenly reached out and hugged the back of her neck. Don't you have anything to say to me? Byran took a long time to react before she muttered, Hubby, I'm going to work. And? What else? Bai Hao looked confused. Gu Chengze reached out his finger and lightly poked his own face as a reminder. Bai Ran finally reacted. After hesitating for a long time, Gu Chengze couldn't help but say, "If you delay any longer, you will be late." "Oh." Bai Yu leaned over and kissed him gently on the cheek. Then he turned around and ran away. Hearing this, Gu Chengze smiled and drove away in his phaeton. A few colleagues who were standing at the entrance of the company witnessed everything. They saw Bai Ran getting out of a phaeton and kissing the man again. The two of them seemed to be very intimate. What was the relationship between the two of them? All of a sudden, speculations about whether Bai Ran was in a relationship quickly spread throughout the morning meeting. Ever since Bai Ran entered the company, he had gained some fame. Other than being one of the best among the newcomers, her strength and design skills were outstanding, and because of her extraordinary temperament and appearance, she had attracted the attention of many male colleagues. Chapter 4608. All the male colleagues in the department believed her words. It was understandable that a student who had just graduated had not experienced the first awakening of love. Moreover, Bai Ran looked like an innocent little girl. Everyone secretly expressed their goodwill and waited for Bai Ran to change her mind. In the end, the news from this morning's meeting shocked many of the male compatriots who were secretly in love with Bai Ran. They all went to Bai Ran to verify it. Finally, Bai Ran could not resist the questions and said to her colleagues, "I'm married." What? Today's doubts were like a stormy sea. Many male colleagues could not believe it. The female colleagues expressed their disdain. A female colleague sitting next to her said disapprovingly, "Weren't you still single a while ago?" "Well, I think it's a flash marriage between him and me. We just registered our marriage." Flash marriage. Everyone in the department was greatly affected by this. Many colleagues who had seen Gu Chengze with their own eyes started to gossip. "I saw it this morning. Bai Ran's husband is really handsome. He's so popular on TV. Not only is he handsome, but most importantly, he's so gentle to Bai Ran." These were all words of envy that had no ill intentions. However, gradually, discordant voices of doubt emerged. "Bai Ran, you just graduated and you're in such a hurry to get married. Flash marriage. Do you know your current marriage partner?" Bai Ran answered patiently, "He's quite a good person. He takes good care of me and dotes on me." You can't tell when you just got married. There's still a honeymoon period and a break-in period when you just started dating. There's still a 3-year itch and a 7-year itch when you get married. In the beginning, it's always full of passion. Later on, without a foundation of feelings, it's difficult to maintain the marriage. That's right. Bai Ran, you're too impulsive. I see that your hand is bare. Where's your wedding ring?" Bai Ran looked at her bare hand and said, "Oh, we haven't had a wedding yet." "You haven't had a wedding? Have you only registered your marriage?" Bai Ran nodded. Someone else asked, "What about the engagement party? Has the engagement party been held?" "No, we only registered our marriage first. For now, we're living together. As for the wedding, we have to think about it." As soon as Bai Ran finished speaking, a female colleague immediately ridiculed him. Among them, a gorgeously dressed woman named Su Xiaoxiao, who was sitting behind her, smiled coldly. "A flash marriage is very dangerous. Bai Hao, you have to think clearly. Whether you can afford a wedding and whether you want to have one or not are two different things. However, a man who has money but is unwilling to hold a wedding, and a man who doesn't have money and can't afford a wedding. No matter what, I don't want these two kinds of men." In other words, Gu Chengze did not hold a wedding. Either he could not afford it or he was unwilling to. At that time, you'll be the one at a disadvantage. After all, it doesn't matter if a man gets divorced once, but once a woman gets divorced, her value will immediately depreciate. Bai Hao didn't agree. "Aren't you being too serious? The wedding is not the only benchmark to measure the happiness of a marriage. It's just a formality." Chapter 4609. Even if he doesn't have a wedding, he should at least buy you a ring. A few female colleagues came over in confusion. "Bai Ran, did you meet a marriage scammer? What does your husband do?" Bai Ran replied, "He's just an ordinary white-collar worker." "An ordinary white-collar worker. One of the male colleagues who had studied cars disagreed. Impossible. Can an ordinary white-collar worker afford a phaeton? A phaeton? Many of the female colleagues in the office had never heard of this car. The male colleagues were different. Many men liked to study cars, but women's understanding of cars was limited. Just like how men only knew Chanel Gucci but rarely Radish, women only knew Porsche and Mercedes-Benz but did not know what a phaeton was. Byran was also at a loss. A phaeton? Yes. A phaeton is a high-end car under Volkswagen. I'm not afraid of Mercedes-Benz and Land Rover, but I'm afraid of Volkswagen. TSK. Many of the female colleagues secretly pouted. They thought it was a powerful car, but it turned out to be a Volkswagen brand. For them, most of Volkswagen's cars were taxis, so they had a cheap impression of Volkswagen. Su Xiaoxiao did not know much about cars and could not help but ask, "Aren't Volkswagen's cars very low class? Even if a phaeton is a high-end car under Volkswagen, it can't compare to a BMW or Mercedes-Benz." The male colleague immediately said, "Ha! A phaeton is really not comparable to an ordinary BMW or Mercedes-Benz." The female colleagues immediately jeered in disbelief. Mercedes-Benz. How can a Volkswagen compare to a Mercedes-Benz? You women say that we men don't know about lipstick, but you know more about cars than we do. A phaeton's top model costs more than 2.5 million and a phaeton costs 2.7 million. The W12's engine is 6.0T. If I drive this car for a month, my monthly salary won't be enough to pay for the gas. When I went to a class reunion, one of my seniors said that he once drove a phaeton like a Passat, and he lost hundreds of thousands because of a bumper. A Volkswagen of 2.7 million. This was an eye-opener for many people. Many men were very surprised. They only knew that phaeton was a high-end brand under the Volkswagen brand, but they did not know that the top-of-the-line model was so expensive. Byran was also stunned when she heard this. In her impression, Gu Chengze was just an ordinary office worker. When he drove a Volkswagen, she also thought that it would cost at most a few $100,000. She did not expect his car to be so expensive. Speaking of which, the interior of this car was also very luxurious. Thinking about it this way, it was very reasonable. However, it was true that Gu Chengze had never mentioned his family background to her, and she didn't pay much attention to it either. Bayan, is that true? Is the phaeton that you're selling really popular? I don't know much about cars. I only know that his car is a Volkswagen. I don't know if it's a phaeton or if it costs more than 2 million yuan. I don't know, and I'm not interested in it. Anyway, I'm marrying him, not his car. Please, you should at least check out the background of the man you're marrying. If the man you marry is a pauper, you'll be crying in the future. Chapter 46:10. Bai Shang did not listen to a single word they said. She was thinking that although she did not know much about Gu Chengze's family background, it was impossible for her to lie to him. She had nothing at all. Why would such an outstanding man lie to her? Even if he lied to her, she would not lose out. Bai Shang, you have to be more careful. A female colleague beside her poked her head in disappointment. Bai Shang finally reacted and let out an, "Ah, snacks? What snacks?" After a moment of dead silence, the office suddenly erupted in laughter. "Ha ha ha ha. Bai Shang, you foodie. She told you to be more careful, but you only have snacks in your head? Bai Shang, you're too cute. I'm really afraid that you'll be kidnapped." "Haven't I already been kidnapped?" There was another round of boos. Bai Shang's face was dark when a message suddenly came on her phone. It was from Gu Chengze. She opened the message and saw a few lines from Gu Chengze. "When you're on break next time, let's go take a look at the house." Bai Shang was a little stunned. "House?" She didn't understand and replied, "What house?" Within a few seconds, Gu Chengze replied almost instantly, "Our home, idiot." Home. Was it a wedding house? Usually, when two people got married, the first process was to buy a house as their wedding house. Since they were getting married and were independent from each other, they had to have their own place to live first. However, the housing prices in the capital were too expensive now. Her internship was a month and she could only get 2,000 to 3,000 yuan at most. After she became a full-time employee, She could get a car, a bonus, and performance. Her dream was to be a famous designer. However, in such a company, there was no room for her to use her abilities. Her dream had become wishful thinking. It was difficult for ordinary designers to survive. The housing prices in the capital were millions or even tens of millions. She replied, "I don't have much money on me. I can't afford much." As soon as the message was sent, she was a little disappointed. She felt that she did not do anything. This time, Gu Cheng's reply was simpler. "I do." Bai Sheng's heart skipped a beat. "What's the budget?" "There's no budget. It mainly depends on the quality of the house. Look at the new buildings online first and do your homework in advance." After handing in the design draft, Bai Sheng had nothing to do, so he searched for real estate on the internet. Recently, there were many new properties. Among them, there were 3 that had the best reputation. One was Shangyu's Spring River Heavenly Seal, another was Hung Yuan's Linxing first-grade restaurant, and the last one was Bonna's Seine River Garden. It was Bai Sheng's first time looking at a house, so he was dazzled by all the introductions. At the side, a few colleagues saw Bai Sheng browsing the web and went over curiously. They saw that she was actually looking at houses. "Bai Sheng, are you planning to buy a house?" "Spring River Heavenly Seal? I heard that this building is very expensive." Bai Sheng was confused. "Didn't you say that it hasn't opened yet?" "It just so happens that it opens this Saturday. I plan to go to the sales office to take a look." His colleagues were shocked. "Are you really going to buy it?" Bai Sheng said truthfully, "My husband said he wanted to buy a house, so I did my homework first. My aunt is one of the higher-ups in the Spring River Heavenly Seal. She said that this house is worth at least 200,000 yuan per square meter. 200,000. It was so scary. The surrounding colleagues were also in disbelief. So expensive? Chapter 46:11. Bai Sheng was a little worried. It was so expensive. Did he really want to buy it? "Bai Sheng, you have to be careful about buying a house." At the side, a female colleague in her 30s advised her, "Don't be used by others so easily." "What's wrong?" The female colleague said, "I finally understand now. When it comes to buying a house, you have to be clear-headed. A few years ago, the price of houses was going to increase. My husband and my mother-in-law discussed it and decided to buy a house. When I heard that it was good to buy a house, I agreed. My husband is a local and has a house, but it's an old and small house. He sold it to make up for the down payment. But guess what happened when he bought the house?" Everyone looked at each other. The female colleague said angrily, "My husband asked me to write my mother-in-law's name. At first, I didn't understand, so I asked him what he meant. He said that the money for the down payment was from my mother-in-law selling her old house, so it was only right for the house to be written in their name. I can only blame myself for being muddle-headed. At that time, I actually thought that what he said made sense, so I acquiesced. However, since this house is written in my mother-in-law's name, they should be the ones paying for it. In the end, right after I gave birth, I had to go back to work immediately and pay off their loan. In the end, this house wasn't mine. Now, I'm being led by the nose by my mother-in-law's family." The more the woman spoke, the angrier she became. Her eyes were red. It was obvious that her words of consolation were from the bottom of her heart. The housing prices in Beijing are so high now. The pressure of paying off the loan every month is not small. Some men marry a wife and don't have a share of the house, but they are clamoring to pay off the loan. Most importantly, in the end, when the loan is almost paid off, the man has an affair. In the end, the one who leaves with nothing is the woman. What bad luck! There was suddenly a wave of resentment in the office. Many of the colleagues were married, and they couldn't help but complain about the unfairness of their in-laws. The more Bai Sheng listened, the more depressed she felt. She didn't like to be in contact with such negative energy. It wasn't that she didn't have empathy, but she couldn't understand why she didn't live a good life and went to the garbage dump to find her husband. "Bai Sheng, you have to be careful. If the man asks you to take the loan, don't do it." Bai Hao smiled but didn't say anything. In the afternoon, when Bai Ran was about to get off work, He saw a Phaeton parked in the parking lot of the company when he walked to the gate of the company to check in. She didn't recognize the car, but she remembered the license plate number. Ran walked towards the car. Gu Chengze pushed the door open and got out. He leaned against the car and smiled. "Let's go." Bai Yan replied with a and went around to the passenger door. At the entrance of the company, a few colleagues were also going downstairs to clock in and get ready to go home. When they saw Bai Ran get into a car, and when they saw Gu Chengze get into the same car as her, they felt terrible. That man is so handsome. That's Bai Ran's husband? It's really a Phaeton. This man's family owns a mine. Did you see the license plate of his car? Beijing A66666. This license plate is even more expensive than this car. A female colleague sneered. Ha! I think her husband might be a chauffeur. He's the chauffeur of a big boss, driving his boss's car out for a grand occasion. Chapter 46:12. That's right. It's very likely that he's from a car rental company. Didn't Bai Sheng say that her husband is an ordinary white-collar worker? This car has a company license plate, and it's so good. It's either a fake license plate or a boss car. His colleagues began to discuss among themselves. Bai Sheng really knows how to brag. Look at her tone. She said that she wants to buy a house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal. Can she really afford it? Who doesn't know how to brag? It didn't cost anything. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, a male colleague spoke up for Bai Sheng. Maybe Bai Sheng is innocent too. That's right. Bai Sheng is so innocent. She doesn't know anything at all. Didn't you hear what she said? She got married in a flash and met him on a blind date. She doesn't even know that man. At this time, many older women sneered again. Blind date? What's so good about a man you met on a blind date? Exactly. That man is so handsome, and he can even afford to buy a house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal. How many women would want such a man? How could he be reduced to a blind date? On the way, Bai Sheng found a briefcase in the back seat. There were many floor plans of different developers inside. Can I have a look? Yeah, it's for you to see. She was so curious that she picked it up and read it page by page. Is there anything you like? Bai Sheng looked around and still felt that the layout of the Spring River Heavenly Seal was the most satisfactory. However, the unit price of the Spring River Heavenly Seal was extremely expensive. She did not dare to imagine that she could live in a house with the Spring River Heavenly Seal. The apartment is not bad, but it's so expensive. At the crossroad, Gu Chengze stopped the car and said to her, "The Spring River Heavenly Seal is very expensive, but I have an internal discount." Internal discount? How good is the internal discount? Gu Chengze smiled and said, 50% off. Bai Sheng covered his mouth in surprise. 50% off? Yes. So cheap? When you're resting, we'll go to the sales office. If you like it, we'll buy it. Bai Sheng was caught off guard. Wait, aren't you going to look at a few more buildings? Gu Chengze did not think much of it. Aren't you most satisfied with the layout of this place? Yes, I am very satisfied, Gu Chengze said gently. I've seen the Spring River Heavenly Seal's model house. It's exquisitely decorated. Moreover, the developers under Shengyu are also the best in the real estate industry. Yes. That night, someone tagged Bai Sheng in the group chat. Bai Sheng, didn't you want to buy a house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal? I've asked my aunt. The flats with sky gardens will be on sale soon. The unit price will be 250,000 renminbi. The price varies from floor to floor. Do you really want to buy it? The smallest unit in this building was 140 square meters. In this way, one unit would cost more than 20 million. You have to pay a few million for a loan. In other words, can you really afford it? Bai Sheng did not reply, because she didn't know if she would buy the Spring River Heavenly Seal. She decided to wait a few days before going to the sales office to look at the model houses before making a decision. However, she didn't expect that these colleagues weren't doing it out of concern, but out of amusement. Some people really couldn't bear to see others living better than them. The jealousy between women was often very scary. They just couldn't bear to see that Bai Sheng was prettier than them and luckier than them to marry such a good husband. Therefore, Everyone was waiting to see her make a fool of herself. The next day, when Bai Sheng arrived at the company, the female colleague came over. Chapter 46:13. I didn't check my phone yesterday. Bai Yu asked blankly, "What's the matter?" I asked my aunt yesterday. She said that the Spring River Heavenly Seal's property prices are very high. Are you sure you want to buy it? The problem is that the down payment is a few million. Also, it requires a high credit rating. Bai Yu smiled. Thank you. However, it's not up to me to decide whether to buy it or not. It's still up to my husband. After all, she did not have much money to pay. Bai Yu had always felt guilty about this. She was mentally prepared to work hard to repay the loan if Gu Chengze took a loan to buy the house. Is your aunt one of the higher-ups in the Spring River Heavenly Seal? Yes. The female colleague was obviously a little guilty. What higher-ups? She was just someone from the sales office who brought people to look at houses. Her aunt was older than her, but she was a few years older than her. However, her performance in the sales office was not bad either. The higher-ups she mentioned were just for show. Anyway, Bai Yu would never be able to afford a house in the sales office. Therefore, she said, "If you really want to buy it, let me know. I'll contact my aunt and see if she can give you a discount." At the mention of discounts, Bai Yu thought of what Gu Chengze said. 50% discount. Can your aunt give us a discount of less than 50%? For a moment, the entire office was dead silent. Everyone looked at her in surprise. After a while, the office erupted in laughter. Ha 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 ha. 50% discount. Where can you buy a house with a 50% discount? And it's a house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal. Unless you're a relative of the royal family, how can you buy a house at such a low price? The cost isn't even enough. The quality of the houses in the Spring River Heavenly Seal is so high. 50% discount. You must be dreaming. Bai Yu, who told you that there's a 50% discount? You're not being cheated, are you? Bai Yu was a little unhappy when she heard the ridicule. She turned around and faced the computer. She did not want to talk anymore. Someone nudged her. Bai Yu, there are so many ways to cheat people nowadays. Don't trust people so easily. Don't be cheated of millions just to take advantage of others. Exactly. A few million can't buy a house. Bai Yu was so angry that she wanted to ignore them. Gu Chengze would not lie to her, and there was no reason for him to do so. If he said that it was a house with a 50% discount, he must have some connections. Xingyu Building. In the president's office. Gu Chengze walked to the door of the office. His assistant was standing by the door. When he saw him, he immediately nodded respectfully. "Hello, Mr. Gu. President has been waiting for you for a long time." As the assistant spoke, he opened the door for him. Gu Chengze walked in and immediately saw the name tag on the desk. Yun Tianyu. The current Xingyu had already undergone a change of dynasty. Xingyu's former boss, Mu Yaja, was also the company's chairman. When Yun Tianyu was 20 years old, he passed the position to him and traveled the world with Yun Shishir. Yun Tianyu was currently in charge of the Royal Academy. Initially, the board of directors was skeptical of Yun Tianyu's ascension to the CEO's position, but little did they know that handling Xingyu Financial Group's matters was child's play to him. To him, Xingyu was just a supervisor. There are two young masters in the Mu family. Even if the throne is passed down, shouldn't it be the eldest son's turn to ascend the throne? Chapter 46:14. The office desk was neat and tidy, but there was no one in sight. Gu Chengze scanned his surroundings and saw a man in a black shirt mixing coffee in front of the wine cabinet. He walked over and could smell the aroma of the coffee even from afar. His favorite beverage was cola since he was young. Now, as he grew up, his favorite cola had been replaced by coffee. Hearing footsteps behind him, Yun Tianyu slowly turned around. His thin lips curled into a smile as his gaze landed on the man. "What brings you here today?" Just as he turned around, a handsome face came into view. It was said that sons took after their mother in terms of looks. This was indeed the case when they were young. However, as they grew up, Yun Tianyu and Muichen's looks gradually changed. When they were young, it was impossible to tell who was who when they stood next to each other. If one did not look at their height and only looked at their appearance, one would not be able to tell the difference. The children's bone structure was extremely similar. However, as they grew up, their appearance changed. Slowly, Muichen looked more and more like Yun Shishir. In the June district, he was a lieutenant. Young and promising, he had a face that was prettier than a woman's. Many ladies in the military eagerly chased after him, but none of them caught his eye. Yun Tianyu, on the other hand, was clearly more handsome than Muichen when he was young. But as he grew up, he gradually resembled Gong Jie and Mu Yaja. Although Gong Jie and Yun Shishir were fraternal twins, Gong Jie's face was obviously more handsome. Yun Tianyu resembled Mu Yaja the most, especially in the shape of his face. It was as if it had been sculpted by a knife. When he stood next to Muichen, he was actually taller than Muichen. When they were young, Muichen had always bragged about his height in front of Yun Tianyu. However, when they were in high school, Yun Tianyu's height increased by leaps and bounds overnight. He actually shot up to 1.7 meters. From then on, his height grew at an insane rate. In 1 semester, he had grown 10 centimeters taller. During that time, Yun Shishir was so excited that she gave Yun Tianyu calcium supplements and urged him to exercise. During puberty, Yun Tianyu's excess energy was all spent on sports. In the end, Yun Tianyu's sports results were even better than Muichen's. Mu Yaja was 1.88 meters tall, while Gong Jie was 1.9 meters tall. Yun Tianyu had actually grown to 1.91 meters, which was 2 centimeters taller than Muichen. Back then, when Yun Tianyu was still in college at the age of 16, Mu Yaja found it unbelievable when they measured his height to be 1.88 meters. Not long after, he learned that his son had grown to 1.9 meters, so he went around bragging that his son was taller than him. All kinds of boasting. Everyone felt like they had just been kid. Damn it, as an old man, his son skipped a grade to go to university at the age of 16. He was bragging about his height. What a boast. What they were envious of was not his height of 1.9 meters, but his admission to St. Andrew's University at the age of 16. When Muichen grew up and started secondary school, his brain finally started to develop for the second time. He finally broke free from the awkward period of his childhood IQ deficiency. Yun Shishir teased that Mu Yaja must have secretly topped up Muichen's IQ. After graduating from secondary school, Muichen and Yun Tianyu were admitted to the city's key high school together, and then directly entered the military. At the age of 20, he was already a senior sergeant. Chapter 46:15. Sometimes there would be family gatherings. More than a decade ago, due to an influenza outbreak, the Gu and Mu families became friends. Since then, they often held family gatherings, and the children of the two families got to know each other very well. At these gatherings, the children and adults formed two different societies. Yun Tianyu and Gu Linqi were together, and both loved to brag about their younger sister. Yun Tianyu loved to boast about how cute Yueyao was and how she would definitely be a beauty when she grew up. Gu Linqi was not to be outdone and boasted about how gentle and sensible Qianqian was. Muichen and Gu Chengze, on the other hand, would brag about how good they were at fighting. When the adults sat together, Mu Yaja and Gu Jinglian boasted the most. Sometimes, when Gong Jie and Hua Jin returned from Darkwind Island, they would join them in boasting. Chu Ho and Yun Shishir were helpless. They felt that the friendship between the two families was exaggerated. Yun Tianyu, who was leaning back in his chair, widened his eyes in confusion when he heard that Gu Chengze wanted to buy a house. You want to buy a house? Yes. The Gu family has so many houses, and every inch of land is worth its weight in gold. With so many properties, why are you buying from me? Gu Chengze said disdainfully. It's not like you don't know that my biological father is like a stepfather. Gu Jinglian was especially harsh on Gu Chengze. Even the apartment he was living in now was rented from Gu Jinglian and had to pay rent every year. Yun Tianyu sympathized with him. It was said that boys were the least favored in the Gu family. Gu Xinghan, who was the youngest, was treated well. After all, he was still in school, while Gu Linqi and Gu Chengze had it worse than the other. Qianqian was different. She was still in school, but she bought all kinds of branded bags one after another. She had just entered high school and was preparing to take the driving test. Yet she had already bought a Maserati. As the saying went, this bowl of water was uneven. In Gu Jinglian's hands, Gu Chengze seemed to be picked up from the streets. Gu Chengze sighed. Every family has its difficulties. You're not much better off. Yun Tianyou's handsome face fell when he heard that. His biological father was no better than Gu Jinglian. He had just turned 20, but Mu Yaja couldn't wait to hold a board meeting and leave the entire Shengyu to him. Then he hugged his beloved mommy and traveled around the world. This was what the two of them had agreed on. When he grew up, the company would be handed over to him. Afterwards, Yun Shishir also retired from the entertainment industry and the two of them traveled around the world together. When Yun Tianyu protested, Mu Yaja said cheekily, "If you're not convinced, then hurry up and get married. Give birth to a son as smart as you to take over, and then you'll be free." Even though he appeared to be indignant on the surface, he did not complain at all. He knew that his daddy had doted on his mommy for 20 years. Mommy said that if she wanted a love that would never change, Daddy really doted on her for 20 years. What touched him the most was that, 2 years ago, when his mother attended a class reunion, a woman in her 40s, who was of the same age as her, looked extremely old. They also used high-end skincare products to maintain their faces, but no matter how one looked at them, they still looked old. Mommy was different. It was as if she had eaten preservatives. Her face was so tender that it did not change at all. It was not entirely true that there were no changes at all. Chapter 46:16. Could it be that this depended on their youthful mentality? Ever since they got married, Mu Yaja had always doted on her. She had never been bullied before. After being married for so many years, they had never gotten angry even once. Not only did they treat each other with respect, but the longer they were married, the more they behaved like a young couple and slowly developed more interests. Some people said that if they treated each other with respect and did not quarrel after marriage, their love would lose its vitality and passion. Actually, this was not the case. If one could find the person who was perfectly compatible with them in this world, they would tolerate and be loyal to each other. Furthermore, a poor couple had many sorrows. Other than the issues of principle between a couple, most of the disputes between them were trivial. With the Mu family's financial situation, there was no need for them to fuss over daily necessities. Hence, they did not have the chance to quarrel. Most importantly, everyone in the Mu family was dedicated to protecting this family. Be it Mu Yaja, Yun Shishir, Mu Chen, or Yun Tianyu, they all knew how difficult it was for this family to get to where it was now. Hence, every member was protecting each other. During their adolescence, Mu Chen and Yun Tianyu did not even last long in their rebellious phase. Both of them had gone through life and death situations and cherished each other immensely. Your daddy and mommy went on a trip again? They are out all year round. It just so happened that Yueyao's exams ended, so they picked up Yueyao and went on a road trip to Country M. Gu Chengze face-bombed. I'm so envious. Back to the topic. Why are you buying a house? Gu Chengze and Yun Tianyu looked at each other and winked mysteriously. I'm married. Yun Tianyu was so shocked that he almost spat out his coffee. You're married? Yes. Yun Tianyu felt unwell all over. That's why I want to buy a wedding house. Gu Chengze did not forget to remind him. Remember to give me a 50% discount. Who said I'll give you a discount? Yun Tianyu disapproved. I don't remember promising you a discount. Gu Chengze said, Did you forget that you said that if I'm the first to get married, you'll sell the house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal to me at a 50% discount? His expression froze. That time, it seemed to be a gathering between him and Gu Chengze. When the alcohol kicked in, Yun Tianyu made a casual promise, and Gu Chengze took it to heart. Gu Chengze laughed evilly. Settled then. I'll wait for you at the sales office this weekend. Why are you waiting for me? Who has the authority to give a 50% discount in the sales office? Gu Chengze rested his chin on his hands. It seems like only you have this right. Yun Tianyou's eyes turned cold. Ah, right? Gu Chengze furrowed his brows and thought of something else. I remember you promised me that if I was the first to get married, you would give me a house and a Maybach. A Mercedes-Benz Maybach would cost at least 2 million yuan. However, no matter what, the 2 million plus yuan was nothing compared to the 50% discount on the Spring River Heavenly Seal. Yun Tianyou's heart throbbed painfully. Although he was in charge of Shengyu, the difference of more than 10 million yuan was close to 20 million yuan. He had to pay for it himself. Chapter 46:17. Yun Tianyu could no longer hold it in. His handsome face was filled with disdain. Gu Chengze, do you want me to warn you not to push your luck? Don't tell me you're marrying that Maybach just for this house with a 50% discount? Ignoring him, Gu Chengze snapped his fingers. It's settled then. Wait a minute. He cocked a brow. Why? Are you going back on your word? No. Yun Tianyu snorted. I'm a man of my word. I can't possibly ruin my reputation. Anyway, will she be here this weekend too? Who? What do you think? Gu Chengze realized that the boy was referring to was Bai Zhe. She'll be here. Are you going to pay in full or take a loan? Full payment. Yun Tianyu felt a little better now. If this fellow did not pay in full even with a 50% discount, he would definitely kick him out of the office. Leaving Shengyu building, Gu Chengze was secretly pleased at the thought of Yun Tianyou's heartbroken expression earlier. Since they were young, Yun Tianyu had always suppressed and bullied him. Now that he had suffered such a huge loss, he could finally turn the tables. Just as he got into the car, Bai Zhe suddenly called. He picked up the call and heard her careful voice on the other end. Han hubby, I have something to discuss with you. Her way of addressing him was extremely pleasing to his ears. What's the matter? What's the matter? That? Can we postpone the purchase of the house for now? Bai Zhe's hesitant voice made his heart ache inexplicably. He was puzzled. What's the matter? I've asked around. The house at Spring River Heavenly Seal is really expensive. I can't afford it now. I've thought of taking a loan with you, but I'm afraid that I can't afford it. Hubby, it doesn't matter where we live. I just don't want you to bear so much pressure. She finally mustered up her courage and told him her heartfelt thoughts. Her heart ached for him. It was not worth it to bear a debt just to buy a house. Gu Chengze was touched when he heard this. Did this silly girl really think that he was an ordinary salaried worker? However, he did not tell her his identity. Such an intimate nickname was on the tip of his tongue time and again, but he could not bear to say it out loud. He was afraid that she would forget about him. That was one of his concerns. He still hoped that she was with him not because of the memories of their youth. He wanted to start afresh with her. Still, what he said was true. Strictly speaking, he was indeed receiving a salary from Gu Corporation. The position of CEO was only in name for the time being, and it was based on an annual salary. She was a salaried worker with a salary of a few thousand yuan a month. Gu Chengze smiled and said, Who said anything about a loan? I'm going to buy it in full. Full payment? Yes. With you. Many local people had to sell their ancestral property to afford a house. Chapter 46:18. Bai Ran stared at the computer screen. Before she could react, a female colleague came up to her. Bai Ran, have you thought about it? Do you plan to buy a house at the Spring River Heavenly Seal? If you do, I'll ask my aunt if she can give you a discount. She paused and tried to persuade her again. Don't believe what others say about a 50% discount. That's impossible. How can a house at the Spring River Heavenly Seal be sold at 50%? The developer will lose money. Oh? Bai Ran's eyes widened in confusion. But my husband said that he's already booked it. Let's go to the sales office this weekend. If we're satisfied with the layout, we'll buy it. Really? At that moment, everyone in the office gathered around. Everyone was shocked that Bai Ran wanted to buy a house at the Spring River Heavenly Seal. Everyone in the company, including the CEO of the design company, was renting a house. A house in the capital was not something that could be bought easily. Without a net worth of tens of millions, who could afford a house in the capital? Even the B-list celebrities in the entertainment industry were renting houses. They could not afford one at all. Bai Ran, your husband is so rich? The houses at the Spring River Heavenly Seal are all garden-style houses with sky gardens. They're easily hundreds and dozens of flats. They're worth tens of millions. Exactly. Byran, did you marry a rich second-generation heir? He drives a Phaeton. The license plate is so good. He must be running a company. Some of them were really envious of Byran. Some of them were still suspicious. Byran was obviously bragging. Many of her colleagues in the office dreamed of settling down in the capital. However, the capital was only so big. With so many people squeezing into the capital, those who stayed in the end were the cream of the crop. Byran was annoyed by the questions. We'll talk about it when the time comes. She was too lazy to explain so much to them. Anyway, since Gu Chengzi said that he was going to buy it, she would listen to him. After all, buying a house was not up to her. She always felt that she couldn't contribute and felt a little guilty. At that thought, Byran rested her chin on her hand. She was worried about the house. At noon, in the cafeteria, Byran sat alone at the table and ate. The others gathered around the table next to her and started whispering. Do you think Byran's 50% discount house is real? How is that possible? I'm just telling you. I'm just boasting. Do you believe me? Do you really believe it? My aunt said that if they could buy the house at a 50% discount, they would cut off their heads and give them to her. Ha ha ha. Do you have to go all out in a bet? Bai Hao sat aside and vaguely heard them talking about him. She glanced at them and felt nauseous. At first, she thought that these colleagues were genuinely concerned about her, but in the end, they were just waiting to watch a good show. However, she didn't care. She didn't get along well with her colleagues to begin with. Ever since she was young, she had always been a loner. Because of her low self-esteem, she was not good at interacting with others. Therefore, she wasn't close to these colleagues to begin with. She didn't care what these people thought of her. Nowadays, people don't even need to pay for bragging. Exactly. Maybe Bai Yu herself believed it. Do you think her husband of unknown origin is obviously lying to her? Chapter 46:19. As soon as she said that, there was the sound of hurried footsteps. Before the female colleague could finish her sentence, she was grabbed by the collar. She turned her face in astonishment, but Bai Yu had already slapped her. Pa! It was a clean and neat slap. Byran? You hit someone? Why did you hit someone, Byran? The scene was chaotic. The female colleague who was hit was called Ai Fei. She was stunned and her eyes turned red. Byran was livid and defended Ai Fei at the same time. Idiot! Why are you acting crazy for no reason? That's right. Why did you hit her? Byran said in a low voice, because she crossed my bottom line. What bottom line? What did Ai Fei do to you? Byran said with reddened eyes, talking about someone else's husband behind their back and saying that her husband is a scammer. Does that make you feel superior? Ai Fei looked at her in disbelief. She did not expect her ears to be so sharp that she heard it. Byran said angrily, what's wrong with men on blind dates? Are all men on blind dates trash? Why should my husband be talked about by all of you? Ai Fei, do you have nothing better to do? Ai Fei was angry and wronged, but she could not defend herself because she was in the wrong. The next second, her tears fell. Byran sneered, you still feel wronged? Ai Fei stood up and tried to hold back her tears. Byran, I was just being nice. Didn't your husband say that he can buy a house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal at a 50% discount? Didn't your husband say that he would go this weekend? My aunt is at the Spring River Heavenly Seal. I'll wait for you at the Spring River Heavenly Seal this weekend. If you can buy it at a 50% discount, I'll kowtow to you. If your husband is bragging, then both of you will kneel in front of me. Is that the problem? Byran was confused. Is the problem whether he can afford the house? The problem is, what right do you have to say that my husband is a scammer? Since he's already married, why would he lie to you? If he can't afford a house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal, then he can't afford it. Why is he bragging? If it's not a scammer, then what is it? Wake up. With that, Ai Fei kicked the table away, turned around, and left. Bai Hao was also enraged. The situation was extremely awkward. The director of the design office suddenly walked over and saw a few people gathered in a circle. Everyone's expression was stiff and he was a little puzzled. What happened? Bai Hao didn't say anything. He turned around and left, leaving the director bewildered. What's going on? Why do you look so unhappy? Who provoked her? She had a fight with AI Fei. Why did you quarrel? A talkative colleague told him about the enmity between Bai Chong and AI Fei. After hearing that, the director couldn't help but smile. How naive! I thought it was a big deal. With that, he shook his head and left as well. Everyone looked at each other. For a moment, they didn't know whether to sit down and continue eating or return to the office. For the entire afternoon, the entire office fell into a dead silence. Ivy had been secretly rolling her eyes. The two of them sat facing each other, separated by the glass railing. Bai Ran immediately went back to work. He drank a cup of coffee and began to draft the design seriously. Chapter 46:20. Bai Ran, why are you so serious about your work? Isn't your husband very rich? Why don't you just stay at home and take care of your husband and children? Let your husband take care of you. Bai Ran buried her head and ignored her. She pretended not to hear anything and continued with her work. What's the meaning of not saying anything? Are you feeling guilty or something? I promised to wait for you at the sales office of the Spring River Heavenly Seal on Friday. Don't disappoint me then. AI Fei, that's enough. One of her colleagues could not stand it anymore and said, Bai Ran is not saying anything. Why are you still talking about this? We're all colleagues and see each other all the time. Forgive and forget. Where it is possible to make mistakes, one should spare them. AI Fei was angry again. Hey, let's get this straight. She slapped me first. What did I do? Why did she do this to me? She slapped me. Who would tolerate it if it were you? Do you think it's easy for you to talk? What's wrong with me? My good intentions were rewarded with a slap. Why should I take this lying down? Bai Ran still did not hear anything. In fact, she would not be angry normally. No matter how others humiliated her, she was used to it. Ever since she was young, she was famous for having a good temper under Yi Yuqin's influence. However, AI Fei had crossed her bottom line. It did not matter how she humiliated her. However, she could not point her sword at Gu Chengze. Moreover, did it have anything to do with her whether Gu Chengze lied to her or not? Could it be that proving that she married an unreliable husband, a husband who cheated her marriage, could reflect her sense of superiority? Why were there always such women in his life? Why were they always hostile to other women? No matter what, they could not bear to see others living a better life than them. In fact, the grudge between her and AI Fei had been formed long after she had joined the company. Before Bai Ran joined the company, AI Fei was a flower in the design office. Her design skills were not that outstanding, but she was liked by her male colleagues and superiors. She was especially good at talking and sweet-talking. Her male colleagues and superiors all liked her. As for her female colleagues, she was not so polite. However, because she had a good relationship with her boss, none of the female colleagues in the office dared to offend her. Instead, they would deliberately curry favor with her. However, after Bai Ran entered this company, this twisted relationship between colleagues was broken. Many male colleagues fell in love with this innocent and beautiful girl. Everyone knew that AI Fei was actually very scheming. Her words to please them were all against her heart. But that was how society was. Everyone would rather listen to false flattery. Bai Ran, on the other hand, did not know how to deal with her colleagues. However, her natural and straightforward personality made her quite popular among her colleagues. However, many female colleagues did not like her. Jealousy between women was always unreasonable. Although looks were innate and there was no way to compare, Bai Ran had become the public enemy of his female colleagues because of his appearance. However, Bai Yu was already used to it. AI Fei suddenly kicked her chair. I'm talking to you. Do you hear me? Also, I'll be waiting for you at the sales office of the Spring River Heavenly Seal on Friday. If you know what's good for you, you'd better apologize to me now. She was trying to establish her dominance. Chapter 46:21. AI Fei raised her eyebrows disapprovingly. Why? Why are you staring at me like that? She smiled and said casually, You've really put in a lot of effort to prove to me that you're not doing well. AI Fei's face almost fell. She snorted coldly and did not say anything else. She lowered her head and continued to play with her phone. After work, Bai Yan punched her card in loneliness. As usual, Gu Chengze was waiting for her at the entrance of the company. Bai Yan walked to the car. Gu Chengze smiled at her but saw that she did not look well. His expression froze. What's wrong? The disappointment on Bai Yan's face made his heart ache. Nothing. Bai Yan hugged him. She did not know if she was feeling sorry for him or for herself. She felt sorry for him. He had been working hard to be a good husband and took good care of her. However, for some reason, he was being slandered behind her back by her outrageous colleagues. She felt sorry for herself. She had worked so hard, but in the end, she could not get anything good from others. She was like a star in the design office. Her design drafts were always the most important for every order. However, it seemed that many people could not tolerate her. It was really unfair. Gu Chengze noticed something on her face, but he was not in a hurry to ask. Instead, he said, Let's talk in the car. Okay? Okay. Bai Yan obediently got into the car. She did not speak along the way, and Gu Chengze was not in a hurry to speak either. When they reached home, he held her hand and went into the room. He carried her to sit on his lap. What's wrong? Is there something on your mind? Bai Yan smiled bitterly. No. Clearly there is. Gu Chengze's heart ached for her. What's on your mind? Why don't you tell me? Maybe I can help you solve it? It's nothing serious. Did you have a conflict with your colleagues? Gu Chengze guessed it immediately. Especially when he saw her flickering eyes, he was sure of it. Other than that, he could not think of any other possibility. She went to the company happily, but when she came back, she had such an expression. She must have suffered some grievances at the company. His tone was so gentle that Bai Yan could feel his affection. She felt wronged and her eyes reddened. She felt wronged for him. He was so good. Why should he be criticized because of her? I'm sorry. Her inexplicable apology made him a little flustered. What's going on? I had a conflict with a female colleague today. She didn't want to hide it from him, so she confessed. She said that you were lying to me when you said that you wanted to buy a house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal. It's impossible to buy a house there at a 50% discount. She said that you were lying to me, and I slapped her in anger. I can't stand her talking about you like that. Bai Hao lifted his head. I don't care if you're lying to me or not. She doesn't have the right to criticize. So she argued with me. Hearing this, Gu Chengze heaved a sigh of relief. So it was because of this. He thought it was a big deal. However, this silly girl had actually fought with others in order to protect her. He really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Amazing. Shang-er, you look like a little white rabbit. I didn't expect you to be able to scratch people when you're angry. Bai Hao frowned. You're still laughing? She said that she'll be waiting for us at the Spring River Heavenly Seal sales office on Friday. Chapter 46:22. Why is she waiting for us? Bai Ran explained. She doesn't believe that you can buy a house at a 50% discount. Let her be. Gu Chengze did not take her seriously. It's not worth getting angry over this kind of person. Bai Ran was surprised. You're not angry? Was he so good-tempered? Gu Chengze smiled and rubbed her head. I'm angry. Why was he smiling when he was obviously angry? Why are you smiling when you're angry? I'm angry at her. But I don't like to bring my anger home because of someone else. Especially in front of Madam. If he was angry because of this, Bai Ran would feel even more guilty. Since he was young, Chu Ho had taught him one thing. No matter what kind of anger he suffered outside, don't bring it home. You can talk, but you can't complain. Home is a harbor, but it's not a trash can. The harmony of a family needs to be maintained together. He had remembered this since he was young. Then, Bai Ran asked tentatively, Are we still going this weekend? Yes, of course. Why wouldn't we go? Gu Chengze did not think much of it. I've already made an appointment to buy it. Bai Ran was worried that if she bumped into Ai Fei and her aunt on the weekend, it would be another war. I know what you're worried about. Don't be afraid, I have a way to solve it. Gu Chengze rubbed her head lovingly. You just have to wait for the signature obediently. Signature? Bai Hao was bewildered. Sign what? The property contract. Gu Chengze did not know whether to laugh or cry. You need to sign a contract to buy a house. Don't you want to sign it? No, no, no. Bai Ran quickly waved her hand. I'd better not sign it. This time, Gu Chengze was really dumbfounded. What? He suddenly held her face in his hands and knocked on her head seriously. Bai Ran slapped his hand away. What are you doing? Gu Chengze said seriously. I'm trying to see if there's a brain in your head. Bai Ran was speechless. Was he mocking her for being stupid? I just feel that I didn't do anything. It's a little embarrassing to sign my name. It doesn't matter if you write it or not. You have a share in the house. We are married, so this is considered a joint property. You can't escape. Bai Hao was even more confused. Then why do I have to sign it? Ritual. Gu Chengze didn't think much of it. I think that the real estate certificate needs to have 2 names on it. Only then will it feel like a family ceremony. Ugh. Bai Ran nodded. Then I will work hard to earn money to support my family. Idiot. He should be the one raising her. With such a small body, he still wanted to compete with him to be the head of the family. Dream on. Bai Hao suddenly hugged him. Did I cause trouble for you? Gu Chengze said seriously. Even if you're a troublemaker, you're still my wife. You're my wife. Bai Hao was amused by his serious tone. Ha ha ha. She laughed for a while, then suddenly sighed. Gu Chengze was caught off guard by her emotional roller coaster. Why are you sighing? Do you know? Bai Ran suddenly hugged him tightly. I haven't known you for long, and we just got married. However, since we were young, you were the one who treated me the best. He couldn't believe it. Chapter 46:23. Hearing him call her his wife, Bai Yu blushed. She lowered her head, a little embarrassed to let Gu Chengze see her red face. However, Gu Chengze had the intention to tease her. He held her chin and lifted it up. Wife, why is your face red? Are you teasing me on purpose? Bai Yu was so angry that she laughed and punched his shoulder with her small fist. Gu Chengze immediately covered his shoulder and pretended, Ouch! It hurts. It hurts? You're still pretending. Bai Yu was even more amused and chased after him. Gu Chengze ran to the sofa and held a pillow defensively. Bai Yu also picked up a pillow and threw it at him. Even if it was a soft pillow in his hand, Gu Chengze could not bear to fight back. He was smashed by her all the way. The two of them were messing around. Okay, stop messing around. Gu Chengze took advantage of the moment when she relaxed and hugged her from behind. Bai Hao was panting and panting because he had messed around with Shi Yan. His face was flushed, and he was sweating. As Shi Yan hugged him from behind, he didn't know what to do. You don't move. Gu Chengze hugged her tightly. Even if she wanted to move, she could not do it. I want to call you You-er. Okay? You-er? Bai Kun was a little stunned by this affectionate address. You-er was her childhood nickname. Such a nickname seemed to be a bit too old. I like to call you You-er. Gu Chengze leaned his chin gently on her shoulder. But you still have to call me Lord Hubby. Why do you have to add Lord after Hubby? That's the only way to show my status. Usually, people who emphasize their status usually don't have it. You know the truth. After Bai Yu's summary, Gu Chengze also realized that this was indeed the case. During family dinners, Gu Jinglian and Mu Yaja would sit together. The two men would always brag about their status in the family. But in reality, Gu Jinglian's status in the Gu family was decreasing day by day. Now, he was only a few ranks higher than him. It was said that it was not like this when they first got married. At that time, according to Chu Ho, Gu Jinglian was a rather cold and violent person. It was only after he got married, especially after Chanshan was born, that Gu Jinglian became more and more like a well-tamed brain. He gradually lost his temper. The one from the Mu family was definitely not any better. The Mu family and the Gu family were the same. Generally, there was an abundance of yin and a decline of yang. Other than being outside, men had no status at home. Only during family banquets would the two of them sit together and brag about their status. In the end, they would be dragged away by their respective wives. For some reason, Gu Chengze had a strong premonition. He felt that he would end up like Gu Jinglian in the future. However, as long as this person was an idiot, he could do anything. Gu Chengze was already mentally prepared. The day after tomorrow is the weekend. Are you still going to work tomorrow? Bai Hao shook his head. Rest. Our company is closed on the weekend, and the draft is just due. I have already submitted the design drawings, so I don't have to go to work tomorrow. Didn't I hear that design companies are very busy? I'm a very efficient designer. Chapter 46-24. Then prepare the documents tomorrow. On the weekend, we'll go to the sales office. If we like it, we'll book it immediately. Okay. Bai Ran was very touched and suddenly said, "Thank you. What are you thanking me for?" Bai Ran turned around and looked at him with red eyes. "Thank you for letting the lights in this city belong to me. Thank you for giving me a home." When Gu Chengze heard this, he suddenly laughed. "Isn't this what I should do? No one's sacrifice is deserved." Bai Ran said seriously, "I will cherish you even more." "Silly." Gu Chengze rubbed her head. "All girls in the world should be pampered." Isn't that right?" Bai Ran hugged his waist and closed her eyes, listening to his powerful heartbeat. Perhaps it was at this moment that her heart was truly moved by love. "Oh right, go to the sales office this weekend. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine." Friend? On the weekend, Gu Chengze had already prepared breakfast and was waiting for her to wake up early in the morning. Bai Ran got up and ate breakfast, then dressed up and prepared to go out. She completely forgot about Ai Fei's words until she entered the sales office and saw Ai Fei sitting on the sofa. Only then did she suddenly remember that there was such a matter. Ai Fei originally thought that Bai Ran would definitely not come. She would just treat it as a visit and play and prepare to leave in the afternoon. However, when Bai Ran appeared at the sales office, Ai Fei stared at her for a while, but Bai Ran did not even notice her. Until Ai Fei walked over and called out to her, "Hey!" Bai Ran turned her head and saw Ai Fei. Only then did she remember the bet between Ai Fei and her, although it was a one-sided bet. "You really came?" Ai Fei looked at her with disdain and glanced behind her. However, when her gaze landed on Gu Chengze's body, her expression froze because of his unparalleled good looks. It was not that she had never seen Gu Chengze before, but she had only seen him from afar. The man quickly got into the car. However, she did not expect to see this man so close. Oh my God! Wasn't he too handsome? Ai Fei looked at Bai Ran in disbelief. Was she worthy of such a man? Bai Ran didn't like the way Ai Fei was staring at Gu Chengze. She asked coldly, "Ai Fei, what are you trying to say?" "Nothing. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Didn't you say you could buy a house here at a 50% discount? My aunt said that if she could buy it at a 50% discount, she would buy it too." When Bai Kun heard this, he did not speak. She didn't want to talk to her, let alone this rude request. Bai Ran tugged at Gu Chengze's sleeve and said to her, "Let's go." "Yes." Gu Chengze allowed her to lead him to the sand table. Ai Fei couldn't stand Bai Hao's neglect. He shouted angrily, "Bai Hao, you don't have to run away." Since he was bragging, he should just admit it. What was the point of running away now? "Since you're already here, why don't you explain?" Bai Hao looked back expressionlessly. "Ai Fei, do you really want to prove that I'm not as good as you?" Among women, there was a kind of jealousy. It was, "I hope you live well, but don't live better than me." Of course, Ai Fei belonged to this category. Chapter 46-25. Gu Chengze had maintained a good demeanor. Such gentlemanly etiquette was cultivated from a young age. It had become a kind of elegance that was ingrained in his bones. Even though Ai Fei provoked him time and time again, Gu Chengze was indifferent. He did not even show any signs of anger. Some people were really not worthy of him lowering himself to teach them a lesson. Ai Fei was not on the same level as him. He did not even take her seriously. Gu Chengzi said, "Is there no one to serve them?" AI Fei immediately said, "There is." She turned around and said to a middle-aged woman, "Auntie, come here." The middle-aged woman walked over and followed AI Fei's gaze to Gu Chengzi and Bai Ran. She immediately understood. AI Fei, are these the colleague and her husband you were talking about? Yeah. AI Fei nodded and said, "Auntie, they said they want to buy a house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal, but you have to give them a 50% discount." As soon as she said that, all the salespeople in the sales office could not help but laugh. A man burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha ha, 50% discount house? Where is it? I want to buy it too." "That's right, 50% discount house. Tell me and I'll pay the full price." Young people these days are really good at bargaining. 50% discount house? Why don't they go to Luo Lai Home Textiles? Aren't there beds and pillows in the Home Textiles exhibition hall? It's possible to lie on the bed and hug the pillow while daydreaming. The group of salespeople discussed animatedly. They obviously looked down on Gu Chengzi and Bai Ran. 50% discount house? It was indeed a big joke. Bai Ran was shaking with anger. AI Fei was obviously trying to embarrass her in front of the entire sales office. However, it was fine to target her, but why did she have to involve Gu Chengzi? Just as Bai Ran was about to take a step forward, Gu Chengzi grabbed her hand and pulled her behind him. "Ranner." Bai Ran looked at him in shock, only to see Gu Chengzi's gaze turn cold. His eyes were locked on AI Fei as he asked slowly, "Are you a salesperson here?" "My auntie is." "Are you?" Gu Chengzi's tone was elegant. He was not particularly loud, but there was a sense of authority that could not be questioned. This kind of awe-inspiring posture was definitely not something that could be trained overnight. AI Fei was stunned by his aura and could not say a word for a while. Bai Ran said to Gu Chengzi, "She is my colleague AI Fei. She told me that her auntie is one of the higher-ups here." Gu Chengzi raised his eyebrows. "Who's her aunt?" The middle-aged woman immediately stood up. "I am. My name is AI Mengyun." As she spoke, she even symbolically handed over a business card, but it was handed over casually with one hand. This meant that she did not take Gu Chengzi seriously at all. Hearing this, Gu Chengzi didn't reach out to take it. He glanced at her coldly and said, "Oh, strange. When did a salesperson?" "Huh? How?" Aunt AI Fei was furious. "Of the Gu. What does it have to do with you whether I'm in the upper management or not? Then why are you blindly comparing things?" Gu Chengzi said, "Is this quality worthy of serving customers? I think the sales office should lay off a lot of people." Chapter 46:26. Gu Chengzi did not even look at him. "I'm a client. I'm here to buy a house, not to listen to your nonsense. Now please give me the floor plan." "You want the floor plan, right?" AI Mengyun turned around, took the floor plan, and threw it at him. "Here, take a look." The floor plan was thrown at Gu Chengzi's face. Bai Hao took in a cold breath. When he turned around to look at AI Fei, his eyes were bloodshot. "What are you doing? Didn't he want to see the floor plan?" AI Mengyun was furious. "Why are you acting all high and mighty at such a young age? A house with a 50% discount? I'll teach you a lesson today. There's no free lunch in this world. A house with a 50% discount? Dream on." AI Mengyun heard from her niece that someone wanted to buy a house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal but wanted a 50% discount. She found it unbelievable. A house with a 50% discount? How could the Spring River Heavenly Seal be sold at a 50% discount? Gu Chengzi closed his eyes and looked at the floor plan on the floor. He said coldly, "Pick it up." The group of people looked at each other in dismay. They were actually stunned by his majestic aura. This man was so imposing. However, they had also heard about Bai Ran from AI Fei, and they were also dismissive of the 50% discount. Therefore, they did not take Gu Chengzi seriously at all. However, Gu Chengzi's aura made them a little flustered. They felt that this man did not seem like someone who would lie. "What's going on?" The sales director's angry voice came from the side. What are you doing? All of you are crowding around here. Good morning, director. Good morning, director. AI Mengyun immediately went up and bowed respectfully. She smiled flatteringly. Director, I'm sorry. Someone is here to cause trouble. It's a pity that I don't have the authority to chase him out. Cause trouble? The sales director looked at the direction AI Mengyun was pointing at and looked at Gu Chengze and Bai Ran. What's going on? This man said that he wants to buy a house in the Spring River Heavenly Seal at a 50% discount. Director, you know very well that it's impossible to buy a house with a 50% discount. I think they're here to cause trouble. However, to everyone's surprise, the sales director looked at Gu Chengze when he heard about this and walked over to him cautiously. Excuse me, are you Mr. Gu Chengze? Yes. The sales director's face instantly turned pale. He was so scared that he quivered. It's over. Just now, he had received a call from the higher-ups, saying that the CEO would be making a special trip today. It was said that the CEO's friend wanted to buy a house and wanted to give the company the best price. The CEO would personally cover the difference. This meant that this guest must be a very important one. After knowing Gu Chengze's name, the sales director was also a smart person. She immediately thought of the eldest son of the Gu family. His name was also Gu Chengze. Could it be? It was the Gu clan's eldest young master himself? The sales director's face turned green. Seeing his pale face, AI Mengyun panicked and realized that the situation was not good. Mr. Gu, it's you. Why are you here so early? President Yun hasn't arrived yet? President Yun. Everyone's expression changed. Everyone knew that the person in charge of Shengyu Financial Group was Yun Tianyu. Chapter 46-27. AI Fei and AI Mengyun's expressions changed even more. Originally, she was waiting to see Bai Ran and Gu Chengze make a fool of themselves. In the end, it seemed like that was not the case at all. They looked on helplessly as the director respectfully invited Gu Chengze and Bai Ran into the VIP room. They were in a bad mood. Oh my God. AI Mengyun was a little flustered. She did not know if she had offended any big shots. Perhaps her husband was really capable? Otherwise, why would the director treat them so well? At the side, a few sales representatives surrounded her. Mengyun, what's going on? Didn't you tell us that someone was going to come to the sales office to put on airs today? That's why we were so cooperative. What's going on now? They seem to be really rich. That's not necessarily true, but it's true that they have connections. Otherwise, how would they know the big boss of Shengyu? Director Yun. That's the future heir of Shengyu. Now, almost all of Shengyu's real power has been transferred to him. They actually know Director Yun? This time, everyone began to panic. This was too unbelievable. Mengyun, explain. What's wrong with your niece? She came to harm us and even caused us to offend such a big shot. If it's true, then we won't be able to keep our jobs. One had to know that it was extremely rare to be able to enter the Spring River Heavenly Seal and become a qualified salesperson. The elites of the Shengyu Financial Group gathered, and the real estate branch under it had the best benefits in all the real estate industry. Not only was the commission high, but the base salary was also high. They also had more holidays and holidays. This was simply a golden rice bowl. If the sales were done well, there would be a lot of room for appreciation in the future. There were more internal transfers within the corporation, and there were also more job choices. To be able to enter the Spring River Heavenly Seal sales office, they wished they could sharpen their brains and fight their way out. In the end, after encountering such a thing, they would probably lose their jobs. Everyone began to tremble with fear. Mengyun, what do you say? Say something. AI Mengyun was being criticized by everyone. She turned around and looked at her niece with a panicked expression. AI Fei, what's going on? I don't understand. Didn't you say that they were bragging? Auntie, I also asked you. I asked you if I could buy a house with a 50% discount. Didn't you say it was impossible? I was sure that they were talking nonsense. AI Fei was also very innocent. Besides, if she really had some background, why would she come to work? If it were her, She would be able to enjoy the fruits of her labor at home and not have to go to work if she had a husband who was a senior executive of the Shengyu Corporation. Wouldn't it be great to eat, drink, and play every day? Why would he still need to work? AI Fei, don't you want to find out who he is? Exactly. What are you going to say if we lose our jobs because of this? A group of people surrounded AI Fei. Panic was written all over their faces. AI Fei was even more at a loss. She looked at AI Mengyun and wanted to cry but had no tears. What are you all doing here? The general manager of sales scolded him from behind. Everyone turned around and saw the sales manager and a group of bodyguards escorting a handsome man over. Chapter 46:28. Sometimes, men were really unscientific creatures. They were not like women who always used skincare products and did not pay attention to their skincare, yet they appeared much younger than their actual age. Most importantly, Yun Tianyu was born with a delicate baby face. It was not that his face was as adorable as a baby's, but he was clearly in his 20s, yet he looked like an 18-year-old high school student. In addition, he did not like to wear suits and preferred to wear casual and comfortable clothes. He was not a person who paid much attention to his clothes. The most annoying thing was to think about what to wear when he went out every day. Therefore, once he came across clothes that he liked, he would buy more than 10 pieces at once. Compared to Yun Tianyu, Mui Chen paid more attention to his appearance after he grew up. Yun Tianyu always complained that he dressed up fancily when he went out every day. Actually, it was not fancily dressed. It was just that he dressed more exquisitely than him. However, no matter how simple his attire was, it could not hide his good looks. The moment Yun Tianyu walked in with the crowd, many people in the hall were shocked. This was the first time they saw Yun Tianyu in person. It was all thanks to Gu Chengze. Otherwise, how could they see the president's face in person? This is the president of Shengyu Financial Group. Are you for real? This man looks way too young, doesn't he? If not for his posture and extravagance, I would think that he is someone's son. Oh God! Only when the group of people saw him enter the VIP lounge did they regain their senses. Oh God! Bai Ran and Gu Chengze really knew Shengyu's president. GG. When Yun Tianyu walked into the VIP room, he saw the director repeatedly apologizing to Gu Chengze. He frowned and asked quizzically, "What's wrong?" Bai Ran raised her head and saw a handsome young man walking in. She thought that he was someone who had just graduated from high school, but when she saw him greet Gu Chengze with a clear and mature voice, she realized that this man was in his 20s. He should be the friend that Gu Chengze mentioned, right? It was said that he was a senior executive in Shengyu Financial Group. As for his position, she did not ask too much. She didn't ask, and Gu Chengze didn't say anything either. However, from the way he was treated, it seemed like his position wasn't low. Gu Chengze was infuriated at the sight of Yun Tianyu. The reception at the Spring River Royal Seal sales office is too lacking. Yun Tianyu raised a brow. What's wrong? When I said that I wanted to buy a house with a 50% discount, they mocked and ridiculed me. The experience was terrible. Hearing this, Yun Tianyu's face darkened slightly. He glanced sideways at the general manager, who immediately understood what was going on. Don't worry, Director Yun. I'll handle it well. With that, he bowed and left. Yun Tianyu sat opposite the man and lamented. Buying a house at a 50% discount is indeed a joke. Selling the Spring River Heavenly Seal to you at a 50% discount is equivalent to a pie falling from the sky. Hearing this, Gu Chengze's mood instantly improved. It's been hard on you. Yun Tianyu's lips curled into a smile. His gaze then landed on Bai Zhe, who was standing at the side. At a glance, he felt as if he had seen him somewhere before. Where have I seen him before? I remember now. Chapter 46:29. He sized her up, and the latter noticed his scrutinizing gaze. For a moment, she became even more nervous. What's wrong? Bai Ran tugged at Gu Chengze's sleeve gently and asked carefully, Why does he keep staring at me? Yun Tianyu chuckled. Because you're pretty. Ah. She felt awkward for a moment. She had clearly lowered her voice, but she did not expect him to hear it. He actually answered her so bluntly. Her face turned even redder. Just as they were talking, someone knocked on the door. Yun Tianyu turned around. "Come in." Just as he said that, the director walked in quietly and cleared his throat. I've done a head count. How should we deal with these 10 employees who offended Master Gu and young Madame Gu? They want to apologize personally, but I'm not sure if Master Gu is willing to do so." Gu Chengzi calmly replied, "I'm not willing." They had the freedom to apologize, but he also had the right to refuse to accept it. Not all mistakes could be summed up with 1 or 2 apologies. There were some things that caused harm that apologies were useless. Then, how should we deal with them? Yun Tianyu curled his lips and said, "Let's do it according to the old rules." Gu Chengzi's interest was piqued when he heard that. The old rules. In Shengyu, where the elites gathered, the reward and punishment system was very clear. After Yun Tianyu took over as the CEO, he redefined the reward and punishment system. The employee's income and base salary might not be high, but the commission and bonus based on their performance were very impressive. As an employee of the Spring River Heavenly Seal, especially in the sales department, their base salary might only be 3,000 yuan, but they would receive a commission every month, which would be tens of thousands of yuan. Selling houses in the Spring River Heavenly Seal, their annual income would easily exceed 10,000 yuan. However, the punishment system was based on the deduction of the bonus. Once a principled mistake was made, the company would humanely give the employee 2 choices. 1. Deduct a year's worth of bonus and commission. Spring River Royal Seal's sales department only gave out 20% of the commission every month, and it would be paid in one lump sum at the end of the year. Hence, if a year's worth of bonus and commission were deducted directly, it would be a huge loss. Would it not hurt to have a few 100,000 yuan deducted at once? The second situation was that the company would give out 50% of the commission, and the employee would take this money and leave. The company would fire the employee. One was a loss of hundreds of thousands, while the other was a loss of a golden rice bowl. It was hard to choose between left and right. To an employee, this was undoubtedly a great torture. Hearing this, the director immediately nodded and left. He went to the sales lobby and announced the matter to a group of guilty employees. "What?" AI Mingyun's reaction was the biggest. "This is too hard to choose. One is a loss of at least a few 100,000 yuan, and the other is directly fired. How are we supposed to choose?" The director said calmly, "Dream clouds, you don't have this problem." "Oh?" When AI Mengyun heard this, her emotions immediately eased a little. "I don't need to be punished?" The director said, "You're fired." "What?" AI Mengyun jumped up again. "I was fired?" The director said, "Yes, the CEO said that you can pack your things in the afternoon. You don't have to come to work tomorrow." AI Mengyun was dumbfounded. Chapter 4630. After a pause, the director explained, "Oh, you've violated the company's rules and regulations. According to the rules, you won't be able to get your bonus and commission starting from January this year. Next month, your basic salary for this month will be sent to your account." "I don't accept it." AI Mengyun jumped up to protest. This was a big deal. One had to know that in order to join the company, she had to rely on a lot of connections to be able to enter the Spring River Heavenly Seal. In January this year, her performance had broken a new record, and she was the sales champion of the real estate sales office. After that, she sold many villas for the next few months. Therefore, in the real estate sales office, she was very favored by the leaders. It was fine if she was fired, but if her bonus and commission were deducted, it would not be just a few 100,000, but more than 2 million commission. More than 2 million. She was going to buy a house this year. This 2 million was waiting for the end of the year to make up for the down payment. If it was deducted all at once, what would she do about the down payment? Just this month, she had already signed the subscription form at the real estate sales office and paid a deposit of 500,000. If she could not make the down payment at the end of the year, then the deposit of 500,000 would not be available because of the breach of contract. This AI Mengyun almost cried out. "Why am I the only one who has to accept such a cruel punishment? Hasn't the company always boasted of being humane?" Mengyun, you have to ask yourself this question. You don't cherish your good job. It's fine if you offend people yourself, but how many colleagues have you implicated? The director sneered. If it weren't for you fanning the flames everywhere, would today's matter have been blown out of proportion? AI Mengyun was very guilty, but she still begged, Director, can you help me ask the president to be lenient? At least don't be so cruel. Deducting it all at once will cost a few million. Who can be blamed for this? It's all your own fault. At the side, the other colleagues were also complaining. AI Mengyun, it's fine if you're fired, but you're implicating us? That's right. If it weren't for you, would we have been punished? Director, can you ask the president to make an exception? At least, don't deduct so much of our bonus. Even if it's 10% or 20% less, it's fine. Sob, 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 sob. There were already female colleagues who were so sad that they were crying. Sob, sob, sob. I was the champion last month. I've deducted a year's worth of hard-earned money. The most stringent thing about the system was that even if one had to deduct an entire year's commission, one still had to work hard in the second half of the year. Every month, there would be performance standards and assessments. If they didn't meet the standards, they would be eliminated. The competition in the sales industry was very intense. Survival of the fittest. This female colleague worked very hard for the sake of her performance. Sometimes, when she was meeting with clients, those old men would touch her. She would bite her teeth and swallow her blood. She endured everything. In order to sell a villa, he had even sacrificed his own body. That big boss said that he could buy a villa, but she had to be his mistress. She didn't want to be a mistress. She accompanied the big boss on a business trip for a few days and told him everything. It wasn't easy for them to finalize this villa and get the best sales of the month. Just the commission alone was 3 million yuan. One had to know that the total price of a villa in the Spring River Heavenly Seal was easily over 100 million. Chapter 46:31. However, if she chose to get a commission, she would not be willing to give up such a good job at the Spring River Heavenly Seal. One had to know that the Xingyu Financial Group was a stage with a lot of room for advancement. She was not willing to give up such a good opportunity. Just thinking about it made her heart ache. Why else would there be a saying that trouble comes from the mouth? These words were not without reason. Trouble comes from the mouth. Just by opening and closing his mouth, he had already brought disaster upon himself. AI Mengyun glanced at AI Fei with red eyes. Seeing her standing there innocently with her head lowered and not even daring to look at her, she was so angry that her entire body trembled. AI Fei, how can you harm your aunt like this? Aunt, I don't know what's going on either. Aren't you Bai Yan's colleague? Since you're colleagues, you should at least have some relationship with her. If you plead with her and she says something, perhaps everything will be fine? AI Mengyun held on to her last hope. However, AI Fei felt awkward. Do you want me to apologize to her? On what basis? AI Fei had always been used to being high and mighty. If she had to apologize to Bai Yan, wouldn't she be embarrassed? However, AI Mengyun could not stand it anymore. AI Fei, let me tell you, your apology concerns the interests of so many of us. You have to know that if you sincerely apologize to her, we won't have to lose so much. Is your face more important or the jobs of so many of us more important? Her words resonated with the crowd. That's right, AI Fei, if you hadn't come here to harm others, would we have been so unlucky? You have to bear the consequences of your own actions. That's right. If you don't apologize, don't even think about walking out of this sales hall today. If I don't have this job, you won't have a good life either. Everyone was filled with righteous indignation. If this was because of a mistake at work, they could not blame others. However, if they lost their jobs because of AI Fei, they would attract public anger. All of them glared at AI Fei as if they could eat her up. AI Fei was really afraid, but she had no choice but to bite the bullet and say, I can only try. But whether or not the other party accepts the apology is another matter altogether. Oh, don't give me that. As long as your attitude is more sincere, they won't make things difficult for you. Exactly. I see that your colleague Byran has a good attitude. Her husband is so capable, but I see that she is very low-key. If you didn't stir up trouble, She wouldn't even think of finding trouble with you. AI Faye, I think you're the one who doesn't like others, right? What's wrong? Are you feeling uneasy and envious now that I'm living better than you? Some people just can't stand others living a good life. This is human nature. But it doesn't make sense to cause others to suffer because of your own selfishness. Apologize. AI Faye, go and apologize to him. AI Faye looked at the angry crowd. No matter how wronged he felt, he had to bite the bullet and nod. I understand. Under AI Mengyun's lead, she arrived outside the VIP room and gently knocked on the door. The person who opened the door was the chief supervisor. AI Mengyun bowed and explained the reason. She asked tentatively, "We want to go in personally and apologize in person. Is that okay?" Apologize? The general manager asked. What's the point of apologizing? Chapter 46:32. AI Faye glanced at AI Mengyun and finally braced herself to take a step forward. She said to the general manager, "I'm Bai Yu's colleague. I'm Mr. Gu's wife's colleague. I have something to say to her. Can you help me pass on the message?" AI Mengyun was his direct subordinate, so he could still reject her. But AI Faye was not. She wasn't his subordinate, so he could only convey her request on her behalf. The general manager closed the door and turned around. He glanced at Bai Yu and walked to her side. He bent down and said softly, "Someone is looking for you outside. She said she's your colleague and her name is AI Faye. She said she has something to say to you." Bai Yu frowned when she heard that. She was originally choosing a house, but when she heard the general manager say that, she guessed that it was because of the punishment. He was here to plead for mercy. Bai Yu glanced at Gu Chengze, who immediately understood. "Go ahead." Bai Yu stood up and walked to the door. When she opened the door, she saw AI Mengyun and AI Faye standing outside with different expressions. When AI Mengyun saw her walk out, she became even more uneasy. Her face was flushed, and her eyes were filled with guilt and embarrassment. "I'm sorry. Just now, I looked down on you." Bai Yu frowned when she heard that. She could not help but say, "I think there's no need to apologize. Once some damage is done, it's useless no matter how many apologies you say." AI Mengyun was even more embarrassed. I didn't have a good attitude. I'm very sorry. Your company's punishment system was not set by me. Your superior gave you such a punishment system not because you offended me, but because you lack professionalism in treating your customers. This has a negative impact on the company, so the punishment is like this. So, it's useless for you to ask me to plead for mercy. I'm an outsider. I have no right to interfere with a company's reward and punishment system. Do you understand? AI Faye said anxiously, "But isn't your husband friends with President Yoon? If he can plead for mercy on our behalf, won't it be useful?" Bai Yu found this interesting and said doubtfully, "Why do you want others to bear the responsibility for your mistakes? My husband didn't do anything wrong. He's innocent. It's because you didn't treat your customers responsibly and didn't perform your duties. That's why the superior gave you such a punishment." Moreover, the punishment was clear. The employees who did not make any mistakes would not be punished. The ones who were punished were all those who were involved. I don't think there was anything wrong with such a punishment. Why should my husband plead for you? What Bai Hao had just said was reasonable and flawless. AI Mengyun's face was half red and half green, but she didn't know how to reply. AI Faye was angry. "Bai Yan, how can you be so impersonal? Just say a few words on our behalf and settle it. It's just a piece of cake for you. Don't you think it's troublesome? Or are you happy to see us so unlucky? So many people have lost their jobs because of you. Are you proud of that? Because of me." Chapter 46:33. AI Faye, please get your facts straight. Who is it that caused them to lose their jobs? It's you who brought your personal grudge into someone else's work. You should be the one apologizing, yet you're trying to morally kidnap me? Bai Shang's words were so eloquent that AI Faye had no reason to refute him. AI Mengyun, who was listening from the side, was extremely anxious. She was only concerned about her own interests now. AI Faye's fate had nothing to do with her. That was half of her assets. One had to know that after the Spring River Heavenly Seal was sold out, they would be transferred to other sales offices. Spring River Heavenly Seal could be said to be the best real estate and the best platform. If she missed this opportunity, she did not know if there would be a next time. AI Faye was furious, but she had to consider her aunt's interests, so she swallowed her anger. I know that it's my fault. I'm a snob. I envy you and I'm jealous of you. Why are you doing better than me? Why are you prettier than me? Why are you being pursued by so many male colleagues? Why are you even married to such a good husband? I'm jealous, so I'm targeting you. It's my fault, but please don't implicate others. When Bai Sheng heard this, his expression softened when he saw that she had finally told the truth. At least she was willing to tell the truth. The most valuable thing about a person was not her willingness to apologize but her willingness to face the ugliness in her heart. Admitting one's ugliness was rarer than pretending to be virtuous. I understand. Bai Sheng smiled helplessly. I'll plead with my husband and friends. But that's all I can do. That's because I still don't want to interfere with other companies' reward and punishment system. Do you understand? Bai Sheng also felt that the punishment was too severe. She knew that Yun Tianyu was standing up for her. Since AI Fei had sincerely apologized, she was willing to forgive her. One should be lenient wherever possible. There was no need to make too many enemies for herself. Bai Sheng did not like to be targeted. Hence, when she returned to the office, Gu Chengze looked up at her and saw her troubled expression. He instantly guessed something. Did they ask you to plead for mercy? Yes. She felt a little guilty. I'm willing to forgive them. However, I don't know if I can plead for them. Why not? Yun Tianyu disagreed. Your reputation is greater than your husband's. Gu Chengze glanced at him coldly and turned to ask Bai Sheng, are you willing to forgive them? I'm willing. Why? Gu Chengze was a little surprised. They humiliated you just now. Bai Sheng was a little embarrassed. Most importantly, he was afraid that he would be put in a difficult position. I'm not good at holding grudges. Hearing this, Gu Chengze smiled helplessly. She was still the same, so gentle. When Bai Sheng was young, no matter who bullied her, as long as they apologized seriously, she was willing to forgive them. At that time, he felt that she was too saintly. Why was she so magnanimous? Some people are not worthy of forgiveness. He even asked her, if you let him go this time, what if he bullies you again? At that time, she revealed a confident expression. I'm not afraid. Only then did he understand that forgiving someone was a sign of fearlessness. He liked Bai Sheng like this. Gu Chengze looked at Yun Tianyu. Can the punishment be waived? Chapter 46-34. When Bai Sheng heard this, he lowered his eyes helplessly. She had tried her best. If Yun Tianyu was unwilling, she would not force him. But Yun Tianyu suddenly turned his head and glanced at the dejected Bai Sheng. He said slowly, if my employees sincerely seek the customer's forgiveness and consider the customer's opinion, the company is willing to reduce the punishment. Reduce? Bai Sheng could not help but be curious. How? If they do something wrong, they must be punished. Just like outstanding performance, they must be rewarded. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. As Yun Tianyu spoke, the pen in his hand gently turned in an arc. If you are willing to forgive them, then I can only consider deducting a month's worth of performance and bonus. Although this was not a small loss, it was much more humane than the previous punishment. Bai Sheng was touched when he heard this. Thank you. I should thank you on behalf of my employees. Yun Tianyu said seriously. Bai Sheng, you are very kind for being willing to forgive their rudeness and neglect. In this day and age, there were not many such kind girls. What? Is that true? In the hall, a group of people surrounded the sales director with tears of gratitude. The sales director glanced at them unhappily. Can I lie about military intelligence? Most importantly, the customer is magnanimous and forgave you. The company considered the customer's opinion and reduced the punishment. However, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't let this happen again. If you meet such a good-tempered customer, you won't be able to meet another one. The company has its rules and regulations. This time, You have obtained the customer's forgiveness. And the customer has also pleaded for mercy on your behalf. If there is a next time, you can pack up and leave. Wow! The group of people cheered. Although a month's bonus and performance was still deducted, this was different. Only after experiencing despair could they cherish it. After the group of people cheered, they started to feel deeply regretful. They had humiliated Bai Shang previously, but she had repaid evil with kindness. It was impossible to say that they were not ashamed at all. They blamed themselves more and more. Many of them wanted to apologize to Bai Shang personally. Ai Fei glanced at Ai Mengyun and her eyes suddenly reddened. She really did not expect Bai Shang to be willing to forgive them and plead for them. When Ai Fei had apologized to Bai Shang earlier, she hadn't been very sincere. But now that Bai Shang had helped them, the guilt she felt towards Bai Shang came from the bottom of her heart. Why was she so bad? She was so bad, but Bai Shang still. In the VIP room, Bai Shang and Gu Chengze had already signed the contract. They picked a house they liked. It was more than 130 yuan, with 3 rooms, 2 halls, and 2 bathrooms. Bai Shang didn't ask about the total price, but there were many zeros on the contract. The original price was at least tens of millions. She felt a little guilty. Tugging at Gu Chengze, she said in disbelief, "This is your friend paying for the difference in price?" Gu Chengze secretly told her, "He's so rich. Why do you feel bad? Besides, did I tell you that? I made a bet with him that if I got married first, he would sell me a house at a 50% discount. Does he have a girlfriend? Or fiancé?" Gu Chengze was startled and his expression darkened. Chapter 46-35. Bai Shang was a little surprised. It was not because Gu Chengze said that Yun Tianyu had a woman he loved. It was just that his expression did not seem very happy, and his tone was a little heavy. What happened? Just as he asked, Yun Tianyu pushed the door open and walked in. Gu Chengze shushed him. Bai Shang immediately sat down obediently and did not ask any more questions. "Have you signed the contract?" "Yes, it's signed. Director Yun has spent a lot of money." Yun Tianyu glanced at him coldly and snorted. "This is not allowed to happen again." "That's for sure." Gu Chengze hugged Bai Shang's shoulders and said with a smile, "Anyway, I don't intend to get married a second time." His satisfied expression made it seem as if he had the whole world with Bai Shang. Gu Chengze casually handed the contract to Yun Tianyu. The director had been waiting for a long time at the side. Yun Tianyu handed the contract to him and asked, "What's the earliest we can get the property certificate?" "It'll take 2 working days even if we go through the VIP channel." The director immediately said, "Director Yun, don't worry. Once the property certificate is ready, I'll personally send it to them." Gu Chengze nodded in satisfaction. As expected of Spring River Heavenly Seal, the service is top-notch and 5-star reviews. Yun Tianyu was about to ask him to get lost when he asked Gu Chengze very seriously, "I saw an advertisement at the entrance. The first customer to complete the transaction every day will get a house full of appliances. Is that true?" Yun Tianyu gave a fake smile. "Gu Chengze, I think you can be more shameless. Then, will the house full of green plants be given as well?" Bai Shang. She felt that they might be chased out in the next second. "Hey!" She did not know whether to laugh or cry as she tugged at Gu Chengze's sleeve and asked worriedly, "Will we be chased out?" "You won't." Yun Tianyu comforted her gently. But in the next second, his tone turned cold. "But he will." "Eh? Don't. I'm not greedy anymore. Don't chase me out. It's so hot outside. We've bought the house. Is there anything else?" "No." "Then get lost." Yun Tianyu said coldly, "I don't want to see you again for a week." When Gu Chengze and Bai Shang left the sales office, a row of sales staff in uniform stood at the door. They had different expressions, but their faces were filled with guilt. Ai Mengyun and Ai Mengyun. "Ai?" Bai Shang's eyes widened in surprise. Then, he looked at the row of people standing behind her. There were so many people. Why were they standing at the door? Ai Fei's eyes and face suddenly turned red. Chapter 46-36. Bai Shang was a little surprised. So your apology wasn't serious? I didn't hear it. I thought you guys were serious about apologizing. As Bai Sheng spoke, she smiled and frowned helplessly. I'm actually not a person who's good at holding grudges, because life is already so difficult. If you have to remember and fuss over anything that doesn't go your way, don't you feel tired? AI Fei looked at her in a daze. I'm actually not that generous, but I can't be bothered to fight with others. AI Fei, I accept your apology. I hope that when we meet again at the company we can be friends. As Bai Sheng spoke, she suddenly thought of something. She looked at AI Fei and then at Gu Chengze beside her. She said word by word, "Actually, you don't have to be envious of me. Many times, meeting anyone is sometimes a coincidence, and sometimes it's inevitable. I admit that I'm very lucky to have met my husband, but I don't think it's worth being jealous of. If you can't meet the person you think is outstanding, then make yourself an outstanding person." AI Fei nodded silently. Bai Sheng said to Gu Chengze, "Shall we go back?" Okay. Gu Chengze put his arm around Bai Sheng's shoulder, and the two of them walked to the parking lot. They got into the car and left under the gaze of a group of people. AI Mengyun looked at the departing phaeton and heaved a sigh of relief. Today's incident was a false alarm. On Monday, when Bai Sheng arrived at work, there was a box of skim milk on the table. She picked it up and there was a post-it note on it. "Thank you." Smiley face. Bai Sheng immediately understood who had sent this box of milk. She glanced at AI Fei. AI Fei sensed her gaze and lowered her head in embarrassment. At noon, Bai Sheng took the initiative to walk to AI Fei's seat and asked, "Do you mind if I sit here?" "No, I don't mind." "If you don't mind, what's there to mind? It's indeed a little boring to eat alone." Bai Sheng sat down opposite her. AI Fei was even more embarrassed. After all, they had some grudges from before. However, Bai Sheng was generous and had no intention of bearing a grudge. AI Fei gradually relaxed. "Bai Sheng, your husband really dotes on you. Also, he's so handsome. Did you guys really meet on a blind date?" Bai Sheng nodded. She was also a little absent-minded. "My marriage with him can be considered a coincidence, right?" "What kind of accident?" AI Fei wasn't in a hurry to find out about her relationship with Gu Chengze. Instead, she was more curious. "You're still so young and have just graduated. Why are you already going on blind dates?" "My aunt forced me to do it." Bai Sheng briefly explained the reason why Yi Yuqin forced her to go on blind dates after she graduated. "Oh my God. Isn't your aunt's family a little too extreme?" AI Fei began to complain on her behalf. "What's the difference between you and a blood-sucking bug?" So, out of a sense of revenge, when he proposed marriage, although I was stunned for a moment, I still agreed. Chapter 46-37. AI Fei smiled. "Bai Sheng, no wonder all the male colleagues in the office like you. You look so good when you smile. Moreover, you're very kind. These days, there aren't many girls as innocent as you. However, it's easy to be taken advantage of." As she spoke, she was afraid that Bai Ran would misunderstand, so she quickly explained, "I didn't mean to curry favor with you. In the past, I always thought that you were very kind and not scheming, but I also felt that you were just pretending to confuse men. Actually, you're a white lotus. It wasn't until I got to know you, especially through this incident, that I realized that you're actually quite kind." Bai Ran smiled. "Isn't being kind good? If a person is vicious, wouldn't it be tiring to live?" AI Fei pursed her lips. "Actually, I should be considered a vicious girl, right? Look, I'm criticizing you on purpose and thinking of you as such a bad person. I actually believe in Sun Tzu's words. Human nature is evil. Mencius said that human nature is good, but I feel that human nature is evil. However, through education and nurturing, kindness will eventually replace that evil. There are no absolutely kind people, nor are there absolutely evil people." AI Fei was a little surprised. "Do you have evil thoughts sometimes?" "Yes," Bai Ran said truthfully. "Sometimes, especially when I'm at my most desperate. I really hope that my aunt will suddenly die one day." She raised her head and looked at AI Fei. She smiled helplessly. "Are you surprised? I'm not as kind as you think." However, that thought was filtered out of my mind in an instant. But I'll never forget that I actually had such an evil thought. Byran continued, so I feel that there's no mistake that can't be forgiven. As long as it's not a mistake of principle, as long as you don't offend others, as long as you're forgiven, don't take it to heart. After saying so much, Byran actually hoped that AI Faye would not take that matter to heart anymore. AI Faye, haven't you already apologized to me? Since you've already apologized, don't take it to heart anymore. You don't owe me anymore. AI Faye was really touched when she heard this. Bai Hao's words sounded long-winded, but he was actually hoping that she would forget those things. Thank you, Bai Yan. AI Faye said sincerely. Can we be friends? Forget all the unpleasantness from before and make new friends. After a pause, she added, if you don't mind, I don't mind. Byran calmly extended his hand to her and smiled. Hello, I'm Byran. Didn't you say you wanted to make friends again? Bai Kun smiled and reminded her. Then let's start by introducing ourselves. Only then did AI Faye react. She quickly stretched out her hand and held it tightly together. Hello, I'm AI Faye. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. This was probably the meaning of the phrase, a smile erases all enmity. The whole company was in an uproar when Bai Chong and AI Faye became good friends. Last week, AI Faye had been targeting Bai Hao. How come they had become friends now? Chapter 46-38. After work, Gu Chengzi came to pick Byran up as usual. Byran was gradually getting used to having him pick her up. At first, she was not used to having someone send her to the company and pick her up from work. But gradually, seeing him at the entrance of the company became such a heartwarming thing. Byran said goodbye to AI Faye and walked towards Gu Chengzi. Suddenly, her phone rang. She took out her phone in confusion and saw that it was Yi Yuqin calling. She was curious. She had disappeared for so long. Back then, it was Yi Yuqin who asked her to get out of the Yi family. She had thought that she and Yi Yuqin would be strangers. Why was she suddenly calling? Byran hesitated for a moment but still picked up the call and walked towards the car. Seeing that she picked up the call, Gu Chengzi walked to the front passenger seat and opened the door for her. Byran smiled and nodded. However, Yi Yuqin's extremely cold voice came from the other end of the phone. Byran, where are you? Byran sighed and got into the car. She asked calmly, Auntie, why are you looking for me? Bang! A loud sound was heard. The car door closed. Yi Yuqin's questioning voice came from the other end. You're in the car? What's wrong? I heard the car door close. Yi Yuqin finally could not hold it in anymore. Byran, what do you want? Huh? You're a girl and you haven't been home for so many days. Are you trying to rebel? Home. When Bai heard this, he laughed coldly. Is that my home? It never was. Ha! You're all grown up now, aren't you? Do you think that you have a man protecting you, so you don't care about me as your auntie? Byran, why don't you think about it carefully? Without me, would you have been able to study to university? Without me, would you have been able to grow up healthily? Byran was speechless. Yi Yuqin's words clearly implied that she was trying to force her to repay her kindness. Byran knew that Yi Yuqin had raised her up because she was indebted to her. However, she did not agree with the second half of the sentence. Auntie, I'm really glad that I grew up healthily. Otherwise, if I fell sick halfway through, you would definitely have thrown me into the wilderness and left me to fend for myself. Although her body wasn't particularly healthy since she was young, she rarely went to the hospital. Most of the time it was just a minor illness and pain. They could just endure it at home. He did not suffer from any serious illness, so there was no need to worry about him. But Bai Kun's feelings towards Yi Yuqin were very complicated. She was very grateful to Yi Yuqin for raising her. But at the same time, she was very clear that Yi Yuqin had her own selfish reasons for raising her. And this selfishness, she had already made it very clear. She frequently urged her to go on blind dates because she wanted to use her to get a house for her son so that she could prepare for the wedding. Bai Kun's heart had already turned cold. If it was in the past, she would still be grateful to Yi Yuqin. But now, because of this matter, She was not grateful at all. Aunt, why did you call me? Why don't you just tell me the reason? We don't have to go around in circles like this. On the other end, Yi Yuqin's voice was equally impolite.